Mr. Akhil Bansal, Deputy CEO, KPMG in India. Mr. Ravi Uppal, former Managing Director and Group CEO, Jindal Steel and Power. And Mr. Rahul Gangal, Partner, Roland Berger. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming them all with a huge round of applause. And as we have told you, we also have a live poll during the 45th National Management Convention. As you can see on your screens, that's all you need to do to participate. And I now share the poll question for this session, which is, robotics and artificial intelligence will create more jobs than they will destroy by generating new wealth and creating new demand. Whether you agree or whether you disagree or you can't really say, we would love to hear from you. Please log on to the IMA app or website and please participate. I now take the pleasure of introducing Mr. Pranjal Sharma. He's an economic analyst, advisor, and a writer. His most recent book is Kranti Nation, India and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. He served as a member on the Global Agenda Council on Transparency and Anti-Corruption at the World Economic Forum. He's now on the advisory board of Partnership Against Corruption Initiative WEF and a member of WEF's Expert Network. He hosted the appointment show for Z Network, and he spent more than 25 years in economic media and was also the founding executive editor at Bloomberg UTV India. Ladies and gentlemen, I now take the pleasure of requesting Mr. Pranjal Sharma to conduct the session.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. May I request everybody to settle down? We are starting the session. Kindly take your places so that we can begin right away and stick to the schedule. Well, good morning again, and this is an exciting thought and a concept to discuss with all of you present over here. This phrase of Industry 4.0 has been with us for a couple of years now. It pops up in different ways in policy discussions at industrial forums. But what exactly is this? It's for those of you who are not very familiar, it's really an umbrella term which describes a set of technologies from IoT to blockchain to usage of drones, neuroscience, precision medicine, and how that can be applied in the Indian context. The panelists I have with me are practitioners and advisors who work very deeply with not just enterprises in India, but also government bodies. I'm going to begin by requesting Mohan to set the tone in terms of defining what Industry 4.0 is and why is it so relevant for India. Mohan, may I request you to begin?
Okay, let me explain, Pranjal. Industry 1.0 was the industrial revolution, the steam engine which replaced human power and animal power. We saw a dramatic change, the rise of Europe, the rise of the machine age. Industry 2.0 was the assembly line of Henry Ford. Till then, people stood in a place, people went to different places and fitted components and everything else. Now, in the assembly line, you had the assembly line moving, people stood still, and you got the parts and you put it, you became a widget. And that dramatically increased productivity. It also expanded the supply chain, because then you had sub-assemblies and assemblies coming from all over the place. Now, Industry 3.0 was the CNC machine and PLC machines, where you had this machine which are automated to some great extent, and the machines could work by themselves with a human controller, so you didn't have to set every part, you had to program the machine, and the machine cut the part or whatever it is. Now, in Industry 4.0, the entire chain gets automated. It means you have robots doing the work on the shop floor, and the robots make sure that every part is assembled, the welding happens, everything else happens, the paint shops work in automobile factory, and then your entire dealer network and the entire supply chain is networked together using IoT and ERP. It means the front end and the back end. The front end being the sales is done either directly or through dealers, and the entire system is updated depending upon the sale for the particular day and the forecast for the next day. Now that is fed into the production line, where the production line makes sure that you have smaller batches, bespoke batches. I'm giving an auto example, bespoke batches based upon data, so that you can have smaller runs and very flexible output, dramatically changing just-in-time manufacturing to do that. And at the back end, you have series of sensors in the manufacturing plant to make sure that the parts come on time, the parts go on time, there is quality improvement, everything else. So what you see is a level of automation that has gone up maybe 5x with robotics, with AI, with predictive analysis, right from the consumer. If you want to give a prime example, look at Tesla. The entire factory floor is robotic, scale is direct, and the car is gone ahead to become a piece of software. So the data about the car and the use of the car comes to Tesla every single day. And you know where the car is, how the car is running, every single car. And in case of a crisis, you can send a software patch and change the contours of the car, as happened in Puerto Rico, where they change the design to make sure the speed is cut and the batteries have a longer life. So Industry 4.0 is automation to an extreme chain in the supply chain, in the surround system, and in the heart of the manufacturing plant. I'm giving an auto example because I think that's the easiest to understand.
One quick question and a short answer. Is it relevant for India?
Very relevant. India is going to win. And I'll discuss why when you ask me more questions.
Okay, excellent. That's a great start. Akhil, you've worked on these subjects with global corporations in India, with Indian multinationals as well as small and startup companies. Do you see excitement around these changes or do you see anxiety? And what is then your advice to them?
Yeah. Thanks, Pranjal. And I think, as Mohan rightly put, that it is very relevant. Before I come to anxiety part of it, let me put my perspective of why it is so relevant for India. If we look at what Mohan described as Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3, if you go to that history, you will realize that whichever country participated in or early participated in those industrial revolution, they became the world leader right after that industrial revolution. So if India has this dream of being the third largest economy, if not more, of a $10 trillion economy by 2030, India has no option but to not only participate, but be the front runner as far as the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is concerned. There are also three aspects why it is relevant from India's context. India, if you look at the Industrial Revolution 4, it is mainly led by the technology disruption. And thanks to the steps we took after the Industrial Revolution 3, we came up with companies like TCS, Infosys, where Mohan was a co-founder, or a HCL, or a Wipro, and many like that. We created the proximity to technology as far as India is concerned. And on the other hand, I don't know the reason why it happened, but it did happen that all the offshoring started coming to India. Lakhs of people are doing offshoring in India, which is also driven by technology. So if you ask me, India has an unfair advantage of being close to technology and technological development in the country. And there is no reason not to capitalize on that, rather than saying, oh, all the offshoring business will go up from India. That's one of the anxiety people have across the world, that, oh, once we have the robots and we have the machine answering the call centers and machine doing the work, we would not need Indian offshore center. But my point of view is that we already have an advantage, and how do we put RPAs, and how do we put analytics, and how we put virtual and augmented reality, and make the offshore centers in India more attractive than anybody developing it in the US or Germany or UK, and make it actually happen for India. The two other aspects which also make India very solid for Industrial 4.0 is one is, we all know that million people joining workforce every month. And of course, I'm not counting the feminization of jobs which will happen, or people, when agriculture get more efficient, more and more people will come from agriculture to non-agriculture. These people has to be gainfully engaged. I'm not talking about job creation. And we heard Mr. Gadkari yesterday, about creation of jobs vis-a-vis creation of engagement. Now, whether it is alliance, it is startup, it is business, they have to be gainfully engaged into this. And therefore, there is a need for India to be front runner in industrial revolution. So if you look at from that perspective, and of course, one of the big reason why it is so relevant for India, with 1.3 or 1.4, whatever the number of population is, you cannot stop consumption. And when the consumption is growing, India will be almost 20% of consumption of everything you do. I mean, today, there is so much of opportunity because our consumption is so low, other than the data where we have become the #1 in data consumption across the world. But other than that, our consumption is still low. When that consumption grows up, you don't want to be in the scenario the US is, where consumption is far more than the production, and then you are fighting a geopolitical battle with China to put some trade barriers and all those things. You don't want to be in that scenario. They might as well produce in India to a large extent and equal the consumption. Therefore, it is relevant.
I'll come back to you on issues of how the industry is trying to make up for this challenge and what the transition is. Ravi, in your experience as the head of ABB and then at Jindal Steel, and in your own startup now, it's important to understand that the creation of Industry 4.0, the foundations were laid in an environment and a culture which is not relevant perhaps for a highly populous country like India. Today, what is it that will help India leverage technology at the same time mitigating the negative impact of making perhaps a lot of professionals not so relevant?
I think the technologies which are getting developed worldwide is a universal phenomenon, and it's actually moving in a certain direction. Any country, including India, which wants to be part of the global ecosystem, it cannot remain isolated from what's happening in the rest of them. The compulsions for us to adopt the...
Can you keep it closer?
Yeah. The compulsions for us to adopt the Industrial Revolution 4 technologies may be different. And so are they for United States, Japan. Actually, if you look at it, the biggest trigger for the introduction of the Industry Technology 4 is coming from developed countries, whether United States, Japan, and Western Europe, because these countries have compulsion that they have an aging society. They don't have young people as we have, and they still want to maintain their one-upmanship when it comes to their position economically. So therefore, they obviously wanted to go for technologies which are less people intensive, and therefore you see so much of automation. And along with the automation has also come many other applications where there has been a lot of confluence of different technologies covering the physical, biological, and digitization, which we talked so much about yesterday. So that is, the ones who are driving these technologies. But a country like India, we also have to get integrated with this. We have no option. But my own feeling is that it's going to be very good for India. We have to do our own context setting because, the technologies which are available under the Industrial Revolution 4 are really going to bring millions and millions of our people into the national economic stream. And as a matter of fact, information is power. With the advent of internet, the advent of mobile phones, you can imagine the people that we would have never reached. Today, they have access to what's happening in the country. So it is empowerment of people. And just imagine, as we sit here, if there were no mobile phones, if there was no internet, millions and millions of our people would have remained totally cut off from what's happening in the mainstream. So I think, extending the same logic as we go forward, I think we have to let these technologies come. We only have to see how best we can adapt it to our advantage. I think that's the only question. We always have anxiety whenever things are developed, saying that, how is it going to affect people? When the first computer was done, there were so many worries that it's going to render so many people unemployed, and so it happened. I think as time unfolds, more opportunities are going to come, which are a lot more exciting. So we just sort of make sure that these technologies are allowed to come into our system. Yesterday, the minister said very rightly, we need to make sure that we create standards, we create public platforms, whereby we can, make the best use of technologies to the the advantage of mankind here.
Thanks, Ravi. Rahul, you focus a lot on aerospace and defense industries, and India has been a laggard on this, and it's only now with this government that we've been able to open it up for private sector to expand. Do you think the new technologies can help India leapfrog and become a force to reckon with using these platforms?
Yes, I think so. And I'm unashamedly pro-Industry 4.0. There are reasons for it. And some of them are generic, but some of them are specific to aerospace defense. Industry 4.0 is not an India-specific phenomenon. It's happening everywhere in the world. Everybody's manufacturing chains are getting disrupted. It's a great opportunity for Indian industry to participate in the manufacturing value chain globally. The last disruption that happened was led by gentlemen who are sitting next to me. And look what we did. We built a very nice industrial base around it, a very nice IT ecosystem around it. We can do the same for Industry 4.0. Coming to aerospace defense, any of these industries which are discrete manufacturing, low volume manufacturing, high value add, high product value, they will significantly benefit from adopting Industry 4.0. It's a great opportunity for Indian industry to enter the aerospace value chain and displace existing suppliers.
Do you see that
globally.
happening already?
I see that happening now.
Is there an example you can share?
There are enough and more players who are now, let's take an example. When you used to machine a part, an engine component, and use traditional machining, you were losing 90% of the metal. So the part-to-waste ratio was 1:9. With additive manufacturing, today the part-to-waste ratio is 1:1. So a lot of Indian manufacturers are now entering this space where they're using 3D printing to disrupt what is traditionally a very, very controlled value chain, the aero engine value chain globally. So I think there cannot be a better example than that, where Indian industry is able to enter very quickly into very well-established global value chains. And I echo Ravi's sentiment there. We should not be fearful for it. I think it's an opportunity for us to see how we can best leverage for our own benefit as a country.
But there are good reasons for fear, and I'll come to that a little later. But Mohan, we're talking about manufacturing, industrial manufacturing, but the large economic dependence on services sector in India. Now we have health tech, education tech, almost every services from aviation to logistics is being changed by technology. New options are bringing efficiencies that we have never seen. What about the services sector? Are those verticals in a position to make the most of it yet? What do you see?
Of course. I mean, look, Pranjal, the IT service sector, one of them, is the forefront of Industry 4.0 globally and forefront of automation, forefront of AI. If somebody tells you the sector is not using AI, they're going to lose their jobs, they're out of their mind.
But
they don't know what they're talking.
Can I provoke you?
Yes, please.
Okay. IT sector in India, and you've been part of it, is actually facing a threat because it's not being able to move to AI-based solutions. Now, that's one sector which is under threat, but there are opportunities in another sector. How do you think IT sector will transform?
I think the threat is only in your mind. I'll tell you why. You must understand one thing. This sector is leading the change in their clients. They know what is happening. They're leading the change. They're providing the change. All right, they're not under threat of anything because what is happening at the edge is what they're doing. And when they're doing what is happening there, they're driving the innovation, they're leading, they're not under threat because the new jobs are coming to them.
But I think the revenues of the sector,
please.
only few percentage, 5 or 10% is based on AI today.
Yeah, I mean, AI revenue will take 10 years to become 30, 40%. It's not going to be very big. It's an algorithm, all right? The services component will be very, very large. But the important thing to understand is this is an industry-leading sector. This is not a legacy sector. And their work has got automated for the last 10 years, year by year by year, and they're leading. You'll be very surprised. 50% of American large companies still use a mainframe. Come on, change doesn't come in industry and large animals very, very fast, right? JP Morgan spends $5 billion on IT. They got 15 disparate data systems which have to be linked together and run. It's a nightmare, and this nightmare can only be managed by people who understand that nightmare and do very well.
So from mainframe to cloud, that is an opportunity as well.
There's an opportunity, but the shift is 10%, 15%, it's not 100%. Then let us talk about Industry 4.0, why I think India will succeed. Look, you need an economy which is not demand constrained. India is not demand constrained. We now have a national market because of GST. Okay? It's a national market. Our cost of logistics, the 14% will come down to 6 to 7% because we have a national market. Then we have the IT skills and the technology skills in abundance in this country to make the transition. So we are not a country starved of IT and technology to automate, get in IoT and do everything else. Next, For IoT, we need to get those devices. The cost of devices have come down so dramatically. China can supply to us for the rest of the world. We don't have to manufacture because the cost has come down. Or we can do some of the most sophisticated software setting. For example, in the embedded chip, the embedding of the design itself is very, very expensive. The chip has become very low cost because of certain incentives. So we can do the design. Now, in Industry 4.0, there will be very distributed manufacturing. Now, Industry 3.0 was centralized manufacturing, distributed. Like he said, if you use 3D printing, imagine, look at, I don't want to take away Ravi's thunder, he'll tell you. Now, look at this. I want a car. So I go to a designer in Bangalore, he designs a car in 3D for me, bespoke the way I want. All right? And then I go to my neighboring shop, which is next door to me. He's got a 3D printing machine. He'll print out the entire car for me. You think it's not there? It's there. So you can have a distributed network all over the country where metal powder and plastic powder can come, and this can be used. So we have the design, we have this. So we have to rethink, we have to do it massively. Now, India had a disadvantage so far in manufacturing because we are not part of the global supply chain. Now, the global supply chain is getting disrupted. Because the global supply chain is getting disrupted because it is becoming very expensive, and you can have direct selling B2C immediately, bespoke, in a moment's notice, instead of long chains. That is point number one. Second, we needed capital. Now, India has opened up, capital is flowing to countries where there is a huge demand. There is a shortage of supply. And India is also getting capital in big companies. And third, we needed the skilled labor. This required lesser skilled labor. So the labor laws don't apply. The labor laws are, reforming labors are figment of the mind. The biggest steel company has laid off 40,000 people without going through labor laws, and I don't know what this hula bula is. Sudhir will tell you how people work. You know, it works. You understand? If you look at all this, we are ripe. But what is the key? The key is our industry should accept it, assimilate it, and go for it. We need a pool of risk capital. We need India's SoftBank. We need a pool of capital which will take risk, invest in all these existing companies, give them a little bit of capital, and tell them to fight the battle. We need a grand strategy for Industry 4.0.
So I'm going to ask you, who's going to do this?
Ravi will do it, he will do it, I'll do it, you will do it. It's being done.
We are establishing this. And
yeah,
I
mean, if you say who is going to do it, I will ask Sudhir to have a workforce to team to do it and lead us for India. Sudhir?
You know, friends, you're seeing history in the making. We're getting ready to set the blueprint for a grand strategy for India, and I think that's a great beginning. IMA should lead it for sure. If I could come to you, Akhil, the hurdles for transition, you know, investment in existing technologies, which you have to let go of for enterprises and move to the new ones, investment in the people, which have been trained for a certain level of skills and outcomes and work, which is not going to be relevant anymore. Now, when enterprises come to you for advice, what do you tell them? What do you tell them on how to make the transition? How can there be a business case for leaving whatever they've invested in and making fresh investments?
So when you look at the entire revolution, it's happening. It's already happening, and it will continue to happen for some time to come. It's not something which is done overnight, but speed is important in this revolution. And I say speed is important because if you again go back to the history of industrial revolution, the first revolution happens after centuries of existence in this world. The second one happened within 125 to 150 years of the first one. The third one happened in 70 years. The fourth one is happening in 25 to 30 years. So I'm worried in 10 years from now, and it would be within my lifetime, we will be talking about Industrial Revolution 5. And I don't know what it would look like, but there would be something within the next 10 to 15 years. So this is a Kal Chakra which is going on, and you need to adapt as soon as possible.
Is that proving to be difficult for companies in India to adapt quickly? That agility is what is sometimes difficult for senior leadership to manage?
So that's the mindset change. And if you look at, we talked about what's the anxiety about. And I was, when Ravi was talking, I was remembering that example which I have talked about many times, when many of us would remember when computerization was happening in Indian railways, there was a huge ruckus that if ticketing is done on computerization, then a lot of people will either lose their job or their eyesight will be affected. Now, God knows when we move from computerization of ticketing to online ticketing to and something else, and you know, there are more jobs in Indian Railways than there were before. So there are anxiety, and it's a mindset change which is required to make the shift. It is not about the timing. It is, if you want to make the change, start today. And that's what we tell our clients. You don't have to wait for the change to take place. Either you create the change or you follow the change. And if you want to create the change, then start thinking it now. There is no right timing as far as change is concerned.
That's a good point. Ravi, I know Mohan stole your thunder, but I'm going to come to you on this point. This mindset change and ability of senior leadership to invest in the future. You know, there is also this view that because the senior leadership is at the end of their career, they don't really see the point in investing in the future. And it's a bit of that Brexit problem, you know, where the young people want to stay, but the old people are, you know, stuck in the 1960s thinking. And it's a huge risk effort as well. Is Indian corporate leadership and management prepared for this change, which is going to be the fastest, as Akhil said, it has to be done in the fastest time cycle possible?
I don't think there's any option left to the management for those companies which want to survive, want to grow. I think, you know, the pressure, the relentless pressure from competition is so huge that only for a short period that you could, you know, defend your position by approaching the governments, their intervention, etc. You know, being a person in the industry, I noticed many times the Indian industrialists, they go up to the government and seek their intervention by way of barriers against imports, etc. This is not a long-term solution. I think the best thing is that they should learn to be competitive. And there, it's very important that they know what they adopt the best high productivity methods, including automation to the extent it's required. You know, we have to see, time and again, you could always have short phases where countries build barriers around themselves like being done in the US at the moment, but they're not going to last long. We have to come to terms with the fact that we're part of a global economy, free trading world community, and we have to be relevant in that one. So therefore, any agenda that we set for an enterprise has to be done keeping this in mind. Anything that will help you to be competitive, more productive, I think we simply have to adopt it. Those managements, which do not take to this kind of positioning, I don't think they're going to last very long. But fortunately, I find that many companies are very aware of this. They are absolutely live to the fact that they have to adopt new technologies, and it's happening in India. Maybe it has to gather momentum. So I think when we talk about Industry 4.2, another thing which is very relevant is any decision we take, we should not take just keeping Indian market in mind. I think anything that we do must be globally relevant, because just a matter of time, I mean, I was amazed to see how Chinese steel producers, you know, that they were producing the steel which was about 25 to 30% cheaper, and the Indian steel producer ran to the government saying that please erect the barriers and, you know, defend your position. But how long? It's not going to happen. So I think it's just as well that we look internally and see how we can shore up the efficiency of what we do. So I think there's always a concern about if we take to automation to its final end, is going to make many people relevant, and, you know, the skill obsolescence will take place, people will be rendered unemployed. I think there are many new avenues which are going to happen. For a start, think your market position is going to be stronger. You can go for much bigger distribution, much bigger volume. That by itself is going to bring you more opportunities. There's no dearth of opportunities. So let's not be fearful about the impact of the technologies could have on the employment side. We'll find the way forward as we go, as we have done historically. Time is a testimony to that.
You want to add, Akhil?
Can I come on
the
topic of anxiety you talked about earlier? And I'm so glad to see that all four of us are so optimistic about about this. But just as a counterpoint, you know, there are 4 or 5 aspects of this industrial revolution, whether it is capital formation, whether it's technology, disruption, research, whether it is government policies and creating infrastructure. We are doing pretty good job in that, and there are a number of examples in each one of them. Then, of course, there are a lot more to be done, but we are at least in the right direction. One thing which is not unfounded, the reason for that anxiety is if you look at the Indian demographics, we have a huge amount of young people. But if you analyze that population a little deeper, number of engineers who are coming up, is every engineer hireable? Answer is more often than not, they're not hireable. So while they're getting a degree, but the kind of degree or education they are getting, is that useful for industry as of now, let alone the industry 4.0? Secondly, if you look at the workforce, less than 5% of Indian workforce is skilled labor. While if you compare it to Korea, which is the other extreme at about 96%, or even China, which is 24%. So that is one area. While we are working on it, we cannot afford to spend 10 years on that. You
Absolutely.
need to get that right. I mean, whether it is online training or this mass open courses which are available, that is one area where we need the speed to be a little faster than it is today.
That's a brilliant point, Akhil. Let's take a fact check. How many people in the audience feel that they have the requisite skills and competence for Industry 4.0? Please raise your hands. Excellent. And which means that 99% of the people feel that they should go in for learning. So let me again see a show of hands. How many would like to do another course or improve the academic qualifications and skill qualifications? Excellent. You know, that is the optimism, and that's the kind of mindset change that we're very looking for. Rahul, do you think that this investment in skills, because the word I would like to use these days is not skills but relevance. How do you ensure that each institution and each individual is relevant to the change? And here the relevance cycle is changing every 6 months. Just because you studied something 25 years ago, obviously that's not relevant anymore, but even something that you studied for a mid-career course 6 months ago, maybe that's also not relevant, or 6 years ago. Investment in skill building for every level of a person who's employed in an organization. We all talk about blue collar, but white collar from early stage to senior management. Do you see transition happening, that enterprises investing in the skilling and upskilling of people?
I'll answer to that, but first I want to answer a case study on the last topic. Real case study. We were advising an Indian firm, which is 3 years into defense manufacturing, competing on a global tender, in which it was competing against American, European, Korean, and Israeli firms, the youngest of which was 20 years into that system, manufacturing. The solution was, the system is deployed on the border, and the bid was being evaluated on life cycle cost. This Indian firm went and said, instead of supplying spares, we'll supply you a 3D printer, which can be deployed on the border. You know what was the life cycle cost differential when the bids were opened? It was 60%. The Indian firm was cheaper by 60%. So despite having an age disadvantage of 15 years or 10 years, despite having very little credentials to prove, it was still able to win a global tender. And this also proves one more point, which Ravi was saying. In this automation business, 10 years back, when you went to a supply chain guy, he said, listen, quality is given, let's talk about price. Today they say, listen, automation is given, let's talk about price. So it's not something that's still a question. Now coming to this question of skills which you raised. The same question about, if you would have asked the same question about Industry 4.0, but split it by parameters, and you would have said, how many people know about robotics? You would have had a different show of hands. You would have had a higher show of hands. So I think this Industry 4.0 term needs to be demystified in that sense. It's a larger term. But coming to the question that you asked, I think there is a need for both private initiative as well as public initiative. When I joined industry, I got education which meant that I should be employable till the time I retire. Children who join school today will retire in 2075, they will have to be skilled for that. Are they skilled for that? No. I think the initiative lies with people. All of us individually will have to realize we will be out of jobs if we don't plan on reinvesting in our own skills. So the answer does not lie only with an input which comes from the firm or from the government. The answer also lies in your own private initiative in investing your own self.
That's important because everybody is now responsible for ensuring their own relevance, and I think that's a very key point to take away from this discussion. Let's have some thoughts and questions from the audience. I can see more hands than those who talked about robotics, so we'll have to go one by one to... so can we have the mics in the audience, please, and then... okay. Right, so can I come to the gentleman with the jacket? You halfway up on the table anyway, so... Right, the mics please, the gentleman with his arm raised, he's about to touch the ceiling.
Yeah, Mike,
Please, 2 points.
Hello?
Sorry, just 2 points. One, please, for the sake of discipline, introduce yourself. Keep your question very brief. Thank you.
My name is Nitin. My question is to Mr. Ravi Uppal about competitiveness of our industry. Our rupee is at 73. And still yesterday government increased import.
Sir, myself.
Please go ahead. We can hear you, sir.
Sir, myself, PL Sahadev. I superannuated from PSU and presently engaged in the consultancy job. My question is about the adoption of technology. The robotics, automation is excellent where it should be used. I think that we should evaluate the technology before adopting in our country.
What is your question, sir?
No, I'm coming to my question, dear. I don't see a point in when a digging machine is used to dig the roadsides and building infrastructure of acres of land the earth being dug by the automatic diggers. I think that is, India is that part of the job, unless it is a critically required, must be left to the manual labor.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got your point. Sir, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you because...
we should adopt our technology when it is required, suiting to our Indian conditions. Mr. Ravi had pointed out this.
Sir, we know that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Mic over here, please. Gentleman in the jacket. Excellent if you have that voice. There's a mic behind you though. Use the technology whenever possible.
I would congratulate you on the beautiful way you have orchestrated the solution. And permit me, 1 second only. For behalf of all, Pranjal ji has written a very good book called Kranti Nation and it's the Industrial Revolution.
Well, can we stick to the subject, please? Thank you.
1 second I asked for you. Now the question to the panelists is that, what Akhil ji had told just now, are we living in a better time? Point 1. And is India preparing for the skilled workforce what the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is asking?
Okay, thank you. I'll take one more question from the lady over there. Sir, please, I'll come to you. Let us have some discipline. Thank you. The lady over there, please. I would like to thank you for your enthusiasm, but you know, we will have to stick to time, so may not be able to take all the questions.
A very good morning to all of you. I am Richa Tiwari from Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. Industry 4.0 has enormous potential, but having said that, it can also have a challenging implication on the small scale industries, because implementation of Industry 4.0, the size of the company matters. So what do you think will be the impact on small scale industry, and do we have a methodology or an approach to cater that problem that we can foresee?
Okay, excellent. I'll take a pause here and come back after I come back to the panelists. I'll maybe begin with you, Ravi, Akhil, Mohan, and then Rahul. Quick, short interventions. Thank you.
You know, the gentleman there, he talked about we should, prescribe as to where is it automation can be used and to what degree. I think we are part of a global free society and we are free business enterprise in this country. We cannot have any state intervention to specify norms where we can use automation, where we can use manual methods. I think it should be left to the actual sort of the producers of the equipment or any goods that they do. So it happens in the free world. So I think what should be the mix of machine and man, it is to be best judged by how you can get the best value, how you can get the best productivity. So that is number one. Number two, the lady there asked about, what will happen to the small enterprises. I think the small enterprises can adopt as much of automation and the modern methods as the big ones do. There's nothing that prevents them. So idea is to adopt the technologies that make you fiercely competitive, give you one-upmanship. And somehow we always have this conventional mind that one thing will happen at the cost of the other. I said, no, I defy that thinking. There are millions and millions of other opportunities which are coming our way. It's just that we haven't fixed our sight on them. We are oblivious of them. Look into that. I mean, Mr. Pai yesterday, he made an excellent presentation. He gave a huge coverage about what all has happened, how much we have achieved. He talked about 40,000 startups, employing 450,000 people. So, that is one cue to tell you how many new things can be done. So I think let's be very optimistic and not create any man-made barriers in the adoption of new technologies.
Okay. Sorry, if you allow me, I'll cover this topic because I have a very strong view on that, and I will talk about the skill development. My apologies to you, sir, for giving a provocative answer to this topic. I mean, if we believe that we need to slow down the adoption of technology, we should go back to the Stone Age and not use mobile, not use clothes, not use any food which has been processed. We cannot stop this. We cannot stop this. It has to be adopted, and let me tell you the upside of adopting it. Every industrial revolution, every development has made the life better for people at large. There was a time when there was only few of us, not us, few of kings who used to live a good life. Everybody else was living a terrible life. Today, with the Industrial 4.0, it gives a chance to the poorest of the poor to become something, to gain knowledge which is available, and look at the unicorns and the startups we have come through in India. These are not the conventional industrialist or established business houses. These are the people who have come out of nowhere and created a billion-dollar organization. It gives an equal chance. We will do away with the caste system which was based on what we did. Now everybody will be entitled to do everything. Sorry, but for the provocative answer, but that's what I believe. Coming to the second part of the skill development, I would say that we have started the journey, and look at it's not. It's required three hands to actually make that happen. One is the government. Of course, who has to provide education and skilling, and government has started this Skill India opportunity initiative, and which is providing a lot of opportunities to the world. It also requires the industry to participate along with the academia to provide a more experiential learning than just a degree. And of course, the third and most important is the people themselves, who have to be adaptive, and learn new things. I mean, gone are the days. We can't be just a manual labor. It has to be more than that. All of us have to learn. And I have a high hope on that because of two reasons. One, there are companies like Byju's, which can train you on sitting at your home, which can deliver the content to your home. Those technology disruption again has to be used to skill your people, because otherwise if I said only less than 5% of skilled labor, it's going to take ages before you create institution, brick and mortar, then you get faculty there, then you get people to attend, and then you take 4 years to give them an ITI diploma. It's too late. You have to do it faster. So it will happen. And the second thing which gives me really good hope, these two instances which has happened in the last few years. One is when I saw a lot of people moving from non-banking to bank. When one of my employee, I told him to open a bank account, and he asked me a question to say, is my money safe with the bank? Right? And I asked him, where do you keep it? He says, I keep it under the mattress. And I says, I can tell you it's safer than keeping under the mattress. And now he openly shows me his ATM card to say, I can withdraw whenever I want. And secondly, the data consumption which has happened in the last 2 years, everybody now knows how to use a mobile phone and get entertainment on that. And once you're getting entertainment on that, you're getting a whole lot of other things on that. So these two things together, we are going in that direction, and we will surely achieve what we want to achieve.
That's a good point, Akhil, because people, you must realize that the bank account example is fantastic. 300 million people have joined the banking mainstream using only mobiles. And you may not know, but the new bank which is being launched, the India Post Bank, doesn't even issue a credit or a debit card anymore. So credit and debit card as a concept is also outdated. What they have offered is a card with a QR code, which means that you can transact just using that. So that whole swipe and chip, etc. is gone. And there will be hundreds of millions of people who are now going to be banking using systems that you and I would we've grown up with, but they don't even understand what a checkbook is. They don't understand what a bank transfer is, because they will just use a card which will scan on the mobile, and there the transaction is done. But Mohan, I come to you on the skilling point.
No, I don't want to address the skilling, because to me it's a done issue.
Okay.
I think people
On
are
the small
exaggerating
scale, you
the
wanted
skilling.
to come on that.
No, look, people are skeptical about India's adoption 4.0. Let me give you data. We make 3.8 million cars, 23 million two-wheelers, 1 million HCVs, LCVs, and some 800,000 tractors. It's a huge auto industry. Go visit the Maruti plant, the new plant. Fully automated Industry 4.0 is working. Go visit the large suppliers, auto ancillary. Is working. You ask him, because he's a consultant.
There is a challenge in the SMEs. They are,
I'll come to that.
Somebody said that they're still in Industry 2.0.
I'll come to that. Now, at the top it is happening. The next stage is happening. It'll come down. When the cost of the robots come down, they understand. So the channel is working. Look at Sanjeev. Unilever, been there 100 years, largest manufacturer FMCG. He's already in service 4.2 or whatever you call it. 4 years. He did it. How did he do it? He had the skills, he had the tech, he had the cash. Now, these three things are required. He adopted. The largest company adopted. So adoption is happening at different levels. Go to a textile factory today, fully automated, fully linked, beautiful design. It works. Problem is, you don't see it in the face. People like you don't write enough examples. You ask him about case studies they're having. Now, in shipbuilding, it's not working. Why is that? There is no demand for large ships. Orders are not coming. You require huge orders to come and things to happen. Road building. Some kind of Industry 4.0 will happen in road building very soon, because automation is happening to a great extent. And Ravi doesn't want to talk about it. Ravi he's got a startup. He's a startup entrepreneur. Like people are much younger. He designs all his stuff in Bangalore, transmits it directly to the PLC machines, puts it in the machine, and the machine cuts and works parts in a jiffy. Now look, that is Industry 4.0 to an extent. Now he has to link up with his buyer to make sure at site everything works, which is the next stage. Now look, it is not some rocket science that's happening. It is happening in a big way, it must happen in a much bigger way. But the advantage for Industry 4.0 is, by 10 years we'll sell 10 million cars. We'll sell 40 million two-wheelers. Okay? We'll sell maybe 1.5 million trucks. We'll sell 1.5 million tractors. Now when that happens, dramatically, all this is going to become much bigger. China sells 27 million cars.
Mohan, I think that is established. The question then is that the people you don't employ for all these activities, what happens to them? And that's the strategy, I think, which is what we need to work on.
No, look, I keep telling you, we are supply constrained. Consumption has to go up. We need infrastructure, we need road, we need housing, we need so much. Now, in an economy which is got everything, enough housing, enough roads and everything, even though like the US, they got lousy roads, they got to do it up. You know, for them, investment as a part of GDP is small. Consumption is 85%. For us, investment as a part of GDP is 30%, can go to 35%. That investment will drive more and more jobs to come up. Till consumption comes to $10,000. When you have middle income. When consumption comes to $10,000, it will be a $13 trillion economy. So we are a supply-constrained, consumption-constrained society. We are 10 years behind the curve. For 10 years, we'll have a fantastic ride, and to be prepared.
Okay, so we have to wait what happens after 10 years. But Rahul, quick point from you, and then I can take another set of questions.
Okay, just a statistic.
Yeah.
The robotics payback period has dropped from 6 years, 4 years ago, to less than 1 year last year. So if you invest in robotization of a 100 crore facility, I'm talking of automotive industry, you can expect your payback to come back to you within a year. So A, it's not expensive. B, we're talking about jobs, but let's also understand we need to change the nature of jobs of the population itself. They need to go to higher levels of jobs. There is a large enough blooming economy. There will be jobs for everyone. I don't think I think it's a fear that's sitting in our mind, which is not actually real. And the other piece is, you're only looking at it from a factory perspective, but Industry 4.0 is an ecosystem. There is a design ecosystem. There's a consumption ecosystem. There will be jobs that are created in both sides. So on the whole, I think the number of jobs that it will create could be higher than the number of jobs that it might need to replace.
True, but I think that transition is important. So let's take 2 or 3 more questions. The gentleman over here, the lady at the back. 1 second, sir.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Anis Ansari, a retired IS officer from Lucknow. Under Right to Education Act, there is a provision that 25% of the seats of the students, they have to be made available to the people, to the students coming from the economic and educationally backward groups. Would you advise the IMA to circulate an advisory to all its members that their educational institutions running schools, they should open up at least 25% of available seats to the students coming from the
so that's an important point, but I think if you take it up bilaterally, it will be much better. The lady at the back over there on the left.
Excuse me, sir?
Yeah.
Unless you have a quality education at the school level, all your ambitions of making India great, they will not be realized. It's a very vital issue.
Sir. I don't think that's a question
you should not brush it aside. Either you say that IMA is not involved in
I don't represent IMA, sir. I think it's better that you talk to the relevant officials in IMA to discuss this. Thank you so much. The lady at the back on the left.
Minu Mariel from the Poem Foundation and the visionary of the World Dignity Forum. So here we are talking about the 4th Industrial Revolution, and it is occurring where there is a dramatic shift in the economy. We are in an influence economy where, micro-influencers have greater might than big industries or even celebrities. So there's a bridge that is required to be created. You can be an individual having a huge market catchment area and key to marketing organization.
What's your question, ma'am?
So my question is, what's the bridge and what's the approach to building a bridge between the 4th Industrial Revolution and the influence economy that is very real for all of us to experience?
Okay, thank you. At the back, yes, at the back, please. No. You have the mic. I see you already. Did you bring the mic from home? Yeah. All right. So ask the question, and then the mic will go to the lady on your left. Go ahead, please.
My question, good morning. I am Hardik. I represent startups. I am a startup co-founder. There is no doubt that a new set of jobs would be created. The existing jobs job set will go. But by what time the mindset will change? See, when cab aggregators came, there was hue and cry that jobs will go, but nobody is looking at the fact a company like Ola has created 800,000 jobs.
Right. So what is your question, sir?
My question is, when will people understand that there is still...
Okay, that's an existential question which I don't think this panel can answer, but we'll have to pray for it. But let me go to the lady over there. Yes. So I'll come to you, ma'am. Yeah. Please go ahead.
I'm Bhavna, and my question is that a lot of that we are discussing that people should do new courses to keep up with the advancement, but most of the companies are not willing to invest that much in the learning curve. So what are your views on that?
That's a great point. One last question, the lady over here. Yes. There's...
Mewar Institute of Management. I am director over there. Sir, my question is, our industrial rules and regulation systems are very outdated to meet with the 4th revolution. So there is a need to change these systems. How we can make these systems labor friendly? that the trade unions and the disputes related with the trade unions and the laborers of the organizations cannot arise.
Okay.
How we can do for this?
Okay, thank you so much. I think one important, I'm sorry, we'll have to end here because we're running out of time, but the idea is also to open up our minds to new type of thinking, and hopefully just after the session, but let's see. Rahul, I'll come to you and go down the panel for a quick intervention. I think an important point which is coming through, and perhaps Mohan and Akhil and Ravi, you could weigh in on this, is that the HR practices in enterprises, and I think even in the government, are stuck in 1960s. So you still want degrees, you still want BTechs, and you still want engineers who are not really relevant anymore. Isn't there an internal transition required to now stop demanding skills which are not relevant, stop demanding papers and documents and degrees which are perhaps not so relevant?
Absolutely. I worked in my career across 3 firms. The first was an automotive company where the long service award was given at 30 years. The second was a steel company where the long service award was 35 years. The third was a software company where the long service award was 3 years. So I think it's got to do with the timeline your skill is relevant.
Right.
And I don't think it's fair to expect the government or the industry to keep on reskilling you. I think you have to invest in yourself.
No, but the point is, and I think Mohan, you could answer this, I may reskill, I may get a new certificate, the company will not recognize it. It may not have value in the market because the market hasn't made the transition.
Yeah, I think the key is to create enough jobs so that you can go from one firm to another. Just like a firm gives you a job, you need an employer. There are hundreds of employers. Come to Bangalore, people shift jobs. When I was in HR, my HR manager met me and told, sir, I went to this Jamshedpur Xavier Institute. Yes, I went there. We had many people. And they asked me, how are you doing? I said, I'm doing well. Oh, you're in the same company for 7 years? He said, why? No, we already shifted 3 jobs. And these are the people who tell people stay in a company for 5 years, build a career and all that. So I think the key is to create an ecosystem where there are enough jobs, so demand for people, companies will have both sides of the equation get done. But the big issue which I want to just before put, see, I see this skepticism about many things. And the skepticism to my mind is a result of a lack of enough case studies. So we should produce 100 case studies of Industry 4.0 adoption in this country where people have done. I will request you, maybe I'll request Rekha to work with Ravi and Sudhir on this.
My next book is
and
on
you,
that.
Prepare 100 case studies, put in the public domain so people know how it is happening, what is it, and it has to grow up. We are subscale, so it must become much bigger. All right? If you go to Switzerland, they say Industry 4.0. They're so small. Switzerland is as much smaller than Karnataka, right? The GDP is maybe 200 billion, Karnataka is 180 billion. So, we can always do that. We got to show this so people understand and start thinking about it and not questioning it, because this is irreversible. Whether you like it or not is happening, will happen, and continue to happen.
Thank you. Ravi?
I think we don't need to harbor so much anxiety about the mindset and the need to change the mindset. If you look at the Gen X, Gen Y, and the millennial generation, if you talk to them, you will soon find that their value system and attitude towards long-term employment is radically different from what it was 10, 20 years ago. So therefore, I think we need not get too concerned. I mean, as he said, that people saying you are here for 7 years, you haven't taken a change. That's not one exception. I think it's true of many, many younger people. I can tell you in large companies, many new employees are saying they don't want provident fund. They want to cash it out. They want the money today. They don't want to wait until tomorrow. So that's a reflection of the new state of mind. That's one. The second thing I want to share, which I was just talking to someone before the start of this session, that in some of the companies, multinational companies, they realize that most of the people sitting in the executive management committees and the board are about 50 years in age. And they're taking decisions about people in organization where 75% less than 35 years of age. So therefore, you can see where is the disconnect. The people who are sitting in the board and executive management committee, they make them believe they know their people very well and what they need, and which is a great judgment, error of judgment. I think that therefore some of these companies I know, they have brought young people to attend meetings of the executive management committee and take their inputs on some of the new initiatives they want to take. They have appointed some of these people to usher in new IT technologies and other automation technology into the company, because the kind of valuable inputs they got from them were really, brought a lot of value to the board thinking. So I think we need to try some of these things out, whereby the mass of employees that we have in the companies, their thinking gets manifested into the agenda of the companies. So that's one of the things that they can certainly do.
Right, thank you. Akhil, before I come to you, Mr. Jalan, you had a quick intervention. Can I have a mic for Mr. Jalan here, please? Sorry, I'll come to you, ma'am. I heard you. Give me a second. I'll come back to you. I've just been informed that we have another 7 to 8 minutes, so which is the bonus round for you.
Mohan has been kind enough to refer to me several times. Can I ask a disruptionist question?
I can't expect less of you, sir.
If you want a change in the industrial revolution, I think we are going too slow. The whole organization has to be totally changed, with a lot of dependence on outsourcing and using startups. That is the future, much less regimented organizations.
Do you want to respond to this?
You see, in the age of disruption, the organizational DNA and architecture should change. I think we discussed it. So you must find out what is core, because you've got to be agile. And to be agile, you can't be a mammoth organization. It should change. If you don't change, somebody is going to eat your lunch. I mean, China has eaten the world's lunch and breakfast already because they're so fast, right? We've got to be faster. So I totally agree with you. The organizational DNA, architecture should change. They must shrink. They must have a surround system of partners and work with the ecosystem so they can move faster and win. I mean, I always look at Sanjeev because, he's a leader in this. See what they have transformed themselves in the last 4 years. What, Sanjeev? You have all this. Sanjeev, why didn't you tell us?
Actually, Sanjeev, that's a good idea.
You must tell us.
Can I have a mic for Sanjeev, please, if he can share?
And Sanjeev, don't hold back, please. We have a right to know.
We are talking about a very interesting subject, which is the firm of the future. Now, what are the ingredients of the firm of the future? First is, it has to be a knowledge-based company. Yeah, the skills, the capability of the past will never help you. The second is, you need to breed an experimentation culture. Yeah, unless you have that, you will never be able to unleash the energy in the business. That's so important. And like I was mentioning yesterday, a big is not going to beat the small anymore. It's the fast who is going to beat the slow. So agility in an organization is so important. I'll just give you some examples of how we have changed Hindustan Unilever. We set up two important structural change, fundamental. One is the winning in many Indias, where we have created a structure to harness the lack of homogeneity in the country. Yeah. The second is we set up CCBTs, which are 15 mini boards in the company. These are all run by the CCBT heads with all functional people around them, and they have been given the brief to run the business for the year. There are guardrails. We agree with them the operating plan. But running the business for the year, I do not now get into it. I spend most of my time with my digital council. These are 18 people who lead the complete revamp of the organization across the value chain. We are talking about things like Industrial 4.0. I can take you to a warehouse in Hasangarh, Uttar Pradesh mein, not in the Silicon Valley, which is fully robotized. And where you stock in the shelf is dependent on the affinity of selling based on machine learning. It changes dramatically every day. So it is very important. I think this is a question we should not be debating at all. If we do not embrace technology, if we do not embrace what the panelists were talking about, we'll get fossilized as a nation. And today, with WTO, you are talking about duty barriers having come down. Your productivity has to be the best in class. No longer be competing only with your competitors within the country. And I know, I can understand the fear of the unknown. It is always there. But you map all the previous 3 industrial revolutions, the value gets created immensely at every stage, not the same way, but in a different way. So your existing jobs may change, but very importantly, new jobs will get created. Organization should be knowledge focused. An individual should be a student all his life. I have got mentors. It is reverse mentoring. Youngsters who come and teach me on technology. My daughter, she's an MIT graduate, and I teach her business. She teaches me machine learning. What she has done, she has made a wonderful deck, which is based on self-learning, which she sent it to me, which has given me deep insights into machine learning. Yeah? So that is the way we have to, as a country, as a company, as individuals, we need to evolve. But I'll tell you something, there is massive opportunity lurking at every corner. If we don't harness it, the next generation is going to look at us and tell us, hey, you buggers screwed it up. Has to be India's century, guys.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. I think we have to ensure that your daughter has to be on this dais very soon to be able to share her story as well. Akhil, the point about organizational transformation, how do you see that?
You're talking about the training part of it, the skilling part of it. So I will combine both the questions on the organizational role on the skilling as well as when the mindset will change. And let me start with the mindset change. Actually, I am very optimistic on the mindset change. And one thing which I have seen gives me a lot of hope is, when this mobile phone came in, the generation above us kind of refuse the mobile phone and says, what the hell is this, and why you want to use it. And when I see one of my 80-year-old uncle sending an WhatsApp, a message on a WhatsApp and a photo on a WhatsApp, that's where I see the mindset change happening. So there is a lot of hope as far as mindset change is concerned. Coming to the organization role, as I said, reskilling India is not is a tripartite role, and companies and organizations have to play an equal role. I fortunately come from an organization which has not only now but for last 21 years, Mohan, I've been in the firm, and I'm learning differently, and I'm doing a very different job than I used to do 21 years back, not in terms of role, but in terms of how you do it. We have a rule that if I'm not investing 40 hours in me on those training and development, I will be penalized, and I will be financially penalized if I don't follow the rule, irrespective of our roles and designation. All of us have to skill and reskill ourselves, and that development has to take place. So one, that atmosphere, the culture, the rule is there, and on the other side there is a platform in form of classroom training, in form of online training, on-the-go training, all that has to be provided for. And it is very, it's a must for every organization to create the relevant training and continuously take the entire population in the organization to requirement of tomorrow and day after and day after, rather than firing them and then trying to get newer people from outside. So it's a very critical role organizations have to play.
Thanks, Kapil. We have 5 minutes left. The lady who was asking question over there, I would request, I can take 2 more questions, but please address an issue which has not been addressed. If there's a point, there's a lot of wisdom over here, but we are all humans. So if you have missed out on any point, please raise only that.
Thank you for allowing me, sir. Good morning. My name is Pooja, and I am heading one of the vocational education institute in Rajkot. So, sir, my question is, our students are not at all facing the problems with respect to the skills or employment, because they are earning around 40,000 per month too, provided 6 of them have their own startups. One of them is Gujarat Sales Head and one of them is Human Resource Manager. So skill is not lacking. What I am thinking here, or what problems we are facing is, we have good number of SMEs in Rajkot. So we have internships opportunity for our students. But if I talk at India level, there are many MNCs who are reluctant in providing internships to the company. Although there are regulations from NEEM, but still company people are not allowing students. This is one thing. Another thing is, if they are allowing, most of the time they are given, the task of either packing the envelopes or getting a cup of coffee from the vending machine. So how much time, is a person taking if a student is coming to them for the internship?
That's a great point, because, the concept of internship in India is really about having, a third level of assistant who just probably cleans the table. And that's, I think, terrible, because globally that work ethic is completely different. Thank you so much for that thought. This gentleman here.
Mr. Pranjal, we are talking about 4.0 industrial revolution. My concern is about everything will be technology based. What happened to human relationship or sentiments or emotions?
Okay, that's a great thought, but again, I think it's best discussed in the evening over a coffee or anything else you prefer. Gentleman here. The mic right here, please. I think human relationships are not going anywhere. I think the worry is about your relationship with your mobile phone, which is getting very tricky these days.
Sir, thank you. I am Dr. Jindal. I am a contemporary of Mr. Ravi Uppal from IT, also IT alumni president at one time. I have a very small suggestion, let me say, not a question. We see in campuses like IITs a dire need for close interaction of industry. I would suggest that we have teaching professionals and professors working at the shop floor. The R&D ecosystem is somewhere lacking. We give projects to the students of MTech, BTech and PhDs, which are largely theoretical projects. The shop floor projects are not with them.
Excellent, sir. So I'll have to interrupt you because I think both these questions are connected and brilliant in terms of both internship and the industry-academy relationship. Rahul, Mohan, and I'll come to you for quick interventions, then we end. Thank you. So give us the constructive ideas on what can work and what should happen.
So first of all, this industry-academia interface has to be strengthened for Industry 4.0. There can be formal methods like you see in Fraunhofer in Germany or other places where they give out internships as coupons, where you can go and explore them across industry.
But there's nothing to stop enterprises from doing it. There's no government law and ordinance required for it.
There is nothing to stop it. And in fact, what industry needs to look at is industry needs to start looking at academia as a low-cost R&D base and stop looking at it as a cost, but start looking at it as a resource.
Good point. Mohan?
No, I think IIT Chennai has cracked the problem. They got a technology, they got an industry park, and there are many companies, and they come and work. In 5 years, there's been a remarkable transformation of industry. Because when I went there to the incubator, one professor told me, Mohan, I met you 6 years ago with the Kakodkar committee when you came here. I said, yeah. You answered my question. I said, what was it? Then he said, why is industry not coming to academia? And I answered it then, said, why should academia come to you? What do you have to offer? Tell me, what does academia have to offer industry? You got to offer research, you got some ideas, you got something, you go offer, they will take it. If you got zero to offer, why will they come to you? Please. You got something to offer. You got a management idea. You've done management case studies. You can talk strategy. They will listen to you. If you got nothing to talk and say, sir, come, it will not come. And for that lady, you have to market. It's a marketing game. You can't blame MNCs and all that. You got to meet them 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 10 times. Then they'll open up to you. You got to market because there's clutter in the marketplace and they will say, why you? They could give to somebody else. So I think it's a two-way problem which has to be connected.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry if you allow me to answer on the human relationship. I use a small examples, practical things which I see, and then that's how I connect the dots. I remember one of my cousin who went to the US for studies about 30 years back, and I saw my aunt crying for months and months for getting a letter back from her son in late 70s and early 80s. And when my son is in the US, we are connected on email, SMS, mobile phone, WhatsApp, Instagram. You know, we are almost talking on a daily basis. I don't know whether it's a better human relationship or it's worse than my aunt had to do with so I feel we are more connected with technology. True. Technology also has to be used positively in building the relationship.
Thank you. Ravi, the point about internships, the quality, intent, you know, why internships are wasted?
You know, before I address the issue, I'll say that the extent of cooperation between the academia and industry is very much on the increase. And, but I think it has to be marketing both ways. You know, the education institutions on their website, otherwise, they should reach out to a lot of industries which are in search or development. A lot of projects are being taken. And on the other hand, the industry should also make an effort to see that they use these institutions. I personally, you know, drawn upon the help of IIT Roorkee, IIT Delhi to, you know, take up certain projects, and I must say they did a magnificent job. And we engaged some of the MTech students on live projects, you know, and so this is there. I think it's basically the one which is service provider plus the one who needs, they really need to come together. We cannot ask government to sort of do anything about it, to institutionalize. I think it will take two to tango, whether the academia as well as the industry. Both of them must be sort of aware about it. I just want to say, it has been talked so often, I feel that I shouldn't be saying, but you know, in India, the focus on R&D is still very low. Leave aside, you know, the IT industry are those who are engaged with the development process, and within the IT, in the convention industry, most of the technology we think we have to buy ready-made from outside. And they don't have the patience, they feel they don't have the wherewithal to sort of engage people from academia. We underestimate the potential and ability to deliver of people who are doing the research. I think we really need to question ourselves and try it out. It works. Believe me, it works. And as far as internships are concerned, I think the internship, once again, are very much on the increase. And you know, the projects must be very well defined for the interns who come and do the job within the industry. So I think it does require some more amount of structuring. It should not be taken, you know, seen only as a mere obligation they have to do and just post a statistic that how many people did the internship with them.
Right. Thank you so much, Ravi. And please join me in thanking the panel. I think we've had a fantastic thought leadership here. The only thought I'll leave with you is that for preparing for industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, I think the journey and the change begins from ourselves. So let us put ourselves at the center and begin the change. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for conducting this session. Thank you, Mr. Pai. Thank you, Mr. Bansal. Thank you, Mr. Uppal. And thank you, Mr. Gangal, for sharing your insights with us on this topic. And may I now request President IMA, Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, to kindly do us the honors of presenting mementos to the esteemed panelists. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude this session. I had asked you a poll question before this session started, and we just saw the results on screen. We are immediately starting with the next session, so please do not go anywhere. Kindly remain seated. We are immediately starting with the last session of the NMC, which is the valedictory session. And I would like to share the poll question for this session, which is, the government has to provide protection and incentives to Indian companies to keep the economy growing at 8%. There you see on your screens again the previous question's poll result. And now can we have the question for this session on screen? The government has to provide protection and incentives to Indian companies to keep the economy growing at 8%. Please log on to IMA app or website and participate in this poll, whether you agree or you disagree or you can't really say. We would love to hear your opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, may I request you all that we are heading into a very, very important session, the last session of the day, which is the valedictory session also. Please remain seated as we are expecting CEO Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, to join us any moment now. Please, may I request you all, members of the audience who are standing, may I request you all to please kindly take your seats. Please remain seated, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, may I request you all, members of the audience who are standing, to please kindly be seated. We are ready to start with the valedictory session. As you can see, the chief guest is here in our midst, Mr. Amitabh Kant, CEO, Niti Aayog. Let's welcome him on stage. I also have the pleasure of welcoming on stage Mr. TV Mohandas Pai, President IMA and Chairperson Manipal Global Education Services Private Limited. Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Convention Chairman and Managing Director, Hindustan Unilever Limited, and Ms. Rekha Sethi, Director General, IMA. Put our hands together and give them a rousing welcome. I now take the pleasure of inviting President IMA, Mr. TV Mohandas Pai, to introduce the Honorable Chief Guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have an extraordinary Indian in front of us. How do you describe Amitabh Kant? Amitabh is a very creative person. Incredible India was his creation. And Amitabh is a very innovative person. He put India on the world tourism map by his innovative design and creating an ecosystem in Kerala. Amitabh is a management expert. He came to Niti Aayog as CEO and has changed the face of India. He is the great bull of India, the big bull of India, who is going around this country, giving hope to people, bringing in innovation. Amitabh, as an innovator, has changed the context for all of us in a short period of time. He's a very compassionate bureaucrat, compassionate Indian. He's taken up a project which will transform India. The 125 poorest districts in this country, he's called them aspirational districts. And he's putting the force of the government to give them roads, water, houses, education, power, sewage, connectivity, everything you want to bring them up, because if the poorest districts come up, India grows. And he's tackling the problem at its source. He works 24 hours, travels around the world, he gives a vision. He's a tech wizard. Every time a tech innovation comes, whether it's DBT or the Aadhaar, use of Aadhaar or anything else, he's leading in the forefront. And he's a great thinker, because his vision of India, his vision of what is happening and what we need to do, the building blocks, and getting everybody together for a very large country of 1.3 billion people is truly unparalleled. So very fortunate to having a great Indian, a dreamer, an innovator, a creator, a very creative person come and talk to us on the theme and what he believes we can do, so that we get fully charged and make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pai. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now release 2 special reports by IMA PwC. I request the dignitaries present on stage to kindly do the honors and join us center stage. Meanwhile, I also invite on stage Mr. Harshvardhan Neotia, Senior Vice President IMA, and Chairman Ambuja Neotia Group to please join us on stage for the release. We first release IMA PwC report on how artificial intelligence is reshaping jobs in India. This research report brings out the Indian perspective by focusing on the benefits that individuals across sectors, manufacturing, healthcare, education, ITES, and banking and financial services, etc., perceive AI for businesses and society, and how AI is poised to transform the business landscape. I'll request Mr. Prasoon Nandi, Partner Data and Analytics at PwC, to please join us on stage as well. Thank you, Mr. Nandi, for joining us on stage. We now move on to the release of IMA PwC report on disruptive technologies that can transform India. May I invite on stage Mr. Ashutosh Chand, Partner Emerging Technologies, to join the dignitaries on stage for the release of the report. The research report focuses on some technologies and digital-driven use cases that have the potential to impact and transform the Indian landscape, involving the government, business powerhouses, and society at large. The report brings about different examples of how these disruptive trends and general purpose trends, such as mobile, cloud, digital wallets, and payments, have the capability, individually and in combination, to impact people and businesses and its application in bringing about a transformation across different sectors such as education, healthcare, banking services, retail and FMCG, agriculture and government. In addition, it seeks to estimate the benefit that these technologies could generate. Thank you, Mr. Chand, for joining us on stage.
Since Mr. Amitabh Kant has to be at the PMO very shortly, we are requesting Amitabh to speak first, and then we will invite our partners from PwC also to come and talk about the reports. Amitabh, all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Pai, for that very passionate introduction. And thank you, Rekha, for inviting me here. That Mr. Pai has asked me to speak on innovation in government and what India can do. So, ladies and gentlemen, India is growing at about 7.5% per annum. Last quarter, we grew at about 8.2%. But our challenge is really to grow at much higher rates of 9 to 10% per annum, year after year for 3 decades or more, to be able to lift a very, very young population. We are passing through a window of demographic transition, which rarely happens in history. Almost 70% of our population is below the age of 30. Our average age is about 29. And this, to my mind, is the biggest transformation that is taking place across the world. That is, the population in India is getting younger and younger, will keep getting younger till 2042, whereas the population across the world will keep getting older and older. And rarely across the world, when you have such young demographics, has a country not created wealth. And how do we create wealth in society is the critical challenge for India. I think without innovation, it's not possible, and it's necessary that innovation is driven by government. Government acts as a facilitator and catalyst, and innovation spread across India. I think first and foremost, it's important to understand that India has had, over the years, over the last 70 years, made itself extremely complex and complicated. We'd added a lot of rules, regulation, and procedures. And therefore, one of the biggest innovations the government has done is to really make India easy and simple. I think the first and foremost principle of this government in the last 3 to 4 years has been, how do we make it easy and simple? And this required to do away with a lot of human intervention at different points. So first and foremost, all government departments are being digitized in a very big way. They're cutting across human intervention so that there is no human intervention. And across all departments, the process of digitization has been immense. And that is primarily the reason why India has jumped up 42 positions in the ease of doing business. If you look at Government of India, many of us do not realize this, but 98.3% of Indians pay income tax online. Wow. And almost 98.3% Indians pay income tax online. Almost 65% of this income tax filing which is done is all settled within 60 days, and it's all digital. All digital. Secondly, the government has brought in the public finance management system. Within the government, you have the public finance management system, and therefore every single transaction that I do or any government official does is digitally tracked till the last point. Many of you would recall that one of our earlier prime ministers, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, had made the statement that only 15 paisa reaches the poor people. And that was simply because we used to take money from central government, transfer it to the state government to the district to the panchayat, block level. So you're passing through several layers and several government middlemen by the time it reached the beneficiaries. Today, the government does direct benefit transfer, that is using Aadhaar, that is the biometric. We transfer money straight into the bank accounts of beneficiaries. We've done this in 500 schemes of the government. There is a direct benefit transfer straight into the bank account of the beneficiary, across scholarships, across benefits, across a vast number of schemes of Government of India. Teachers get their salary straight into their bank accounts, and therefore huge number of fake teachers, fake scholarships, fake beneficiaries have all been eliminated. And the government in 500 schemes has saved 90,000 crore rupees. 90,000 crore rupees has been saved. And this, to my mind, is the biggest innovation of the government, which has yesterday been ratified by the Supreme Court of India in its Aadhaar judgment, that actually innovation and digital technology really pushes, and India cannot lag behind in technology, and it has used technology to push the limits of better governance, better efficiency. So it has used direct benefit transfer. It uses the public finance management system to manage its system. Fourthly, the government has pushed the digital payments. All of us used to do our transaction in cash. India was essentially a cash economy. 97% of our transactions used to be in cash. And now, a lot of that transaction is digital. Earlier, we used to use credit cards, but now we have the Bharat interface for money called the BHIM. And when the BHIM came in, you could do transactions straight from your mobile. All digital payment transactions, actually for the last 1 year, I've not done any cash or credit card transaction. I do all my transaction using my mobile. I used to use the BHIM app. And then we have all the banks linked up at the back called the Unified Payment Interface, which is one of the biggest innovations in the world. All the banks are linked up at the back, and when I use my BHIM, the payment simultaneously gets either debited or credited. And after BHIM came in, Google came up with its Google Tej. And because it innovated and it realized India is going to be a huge market for digital payments, Google innovated and came up with Google Tej and walked away with 76% of the market. And now WhatsApp came up with WhatsApp payment. So what you are seeing in the digital payment space, innovation by government through BHIM, Innovation by government through the unified payment interface, Google's intervention by Tej, and WhatsApp payment. And what I envisage is that in the next 4 to 5 years, because we are a country with 1 billion plus mobiles, we are a country with 1 billion plus biometric, all this payment in India will be through mobile. And India will be the first country in the world actually which will make debit card, credit card, all this will become, and ATM machines will all become digitally redundant, and all of us will be doing our payment using mobile. So this will be one of the biggest technological transitions. This will be one of the biggest technological transitions which will take place in the history of mankind. The next point I want to make is that, when I was about a decade back, I was working in the government of Kerala, and I was working with traditional fishermen. And one of the challenges was that how do you raise the incomes of traditional fishermen, because they used to catch fish. And they used to get only 22% of the marketed price because there were so many middlemen in the layers. The fish used to be auctioned at the beach. By the time it reaches the consumer, like Mr. Pai, there were 18 different middlemen. So the challenge was, how do you increase the returns to the traditional fishermen? So we brought in outboard motors, we gave them outboard motors, we formed self-help groups, we gave them crafts, we gave them nets. And for about 3 years, I worked with traditional fishermen day in, day out. And one of the biggest challenges was not about providing better technology to them, but about opening their bank accounts. Chasing physical banks and physical managers was a nightmare. It used to take me 9 to 10 months to open bank accounts for traditional fishermen and their self-help groups. It was impossible to get bank accounts open. Know your customer was a nightmare. Last fortnight, I walked into a bank in Delhi, and on a handheld device, using my biometric, I opened my account in 55 seconds flat. So we have come from 10 months, taking 10 months to open a bank account and know your customers. We can now use biometrics to open a bank account in less than a minute. This is the paradigm shift in terms of innovation that has taken place in India. It's a huge, huge shift. It's a massive paradigm shift in terms of innovation. And therefore, across the board, if you look at public finance management system, if you look at income tax, if you look at digital payments, if you look at DBT, all this have been great innovations. Then we came up with the goods and services tax, which is about a unified tax system across the country. India had 70 million tax, we had about 70 lakh taxpayers in 72 lakh taxpayers in about 70 years of our independence, we had 72 lakh taxpayers. And in 1 year, we are going to get an equivalent amount of taxpayers. That is, you are doubling your number of taxpayers through GST by using digital economy, through digitization. You are doubling your number of taxpayers in 1 year flat. What you did in 70 years, you are going to do in 1 year. 1 year, and that means you're formalizing your economy. 1 year of GST will formalize your economy, both in the number of taxpayers. And just imagine what it will do. It will enable your tax base to grow over a period of time. This will enable the government to spend money in a highly informal economy. From an informal economy, you move to a totally formal economy. And this will enable you to spend money on education, on health, on several other things. And on nutrition, and all these things. And this formalization of economy is happening because of this great innovation of goods and services tax, which was innovation in terms of the constitution, innovation in terms of a digital framework at the back, and innovation in terms of having one tax across a country which is bigger than 24 countries of Europe. So this has been unique innovation. And then, just on the 23rd of this month, the Prime Minister launched the he'd earlier launched the Ayushman Bharat scheme in Bijapur district of Chhattisgarh, which is to link up 150,000 primary health centers with the district hospitals. One of the challenges, in India, the biggest challenge today is that a poor person he runs 66 lakh people go below the poverty line in India because they do not have access to health care. And 66 lakh people go below health care because they can't reach doctors and they are not able to take care of their medical problems. And this is the biggest challenge. So once you link up 150,000 primary healthcare centers to the district hospitals digitally, and it is all being done digitally. I go to the primary healthcare center where you have a medical care assistant, and even if there is no doctor, I'll be able to access my doctor digitally from the district hospital, and all the specialists will be able to guide me digitally. And this, to my mind, will be one of the biggest transitions ever of linking up digitally from the grassroots level to the district hospital and providing all specialist care to the patients. And secondly, on 23rd, the Prime Minister launched the biggest healthcare initiative in the world. And India will be providing to 500 million people, that is 50 crore people, healthcare of up to 50 crore people will be entitled to healthcare insurance up to 5 lakh rupees. And this will all be cashless. This is a cashless scheme. This is a paperless scheme. This is a portable scheme. If you are a laborer in Bihar and working in Tamil Nadu, you'll still get it through a cashless, paperless mechanism. So it will be portable. And this 500 million people means that the population of America, population of Europe, and the population of Mexico all put together. And India is cracking a healthcare insurance scheme which is larger in size and scale than America, Europe, and Mexico put together. And therefore, this innovation of providing health care to people at the grassroots level and providing medical care insurance to people below poverty line, 500 million people, is the biggest innovation done anywhere else, anywhere in the world. No other country has tried it. No other country has succeeded in doing it. India is doing this innovation. And therefore, all this, the GST, the healthcare, the digital payment, all this will throw up a lot of data. All this digitization is going to throw up a lot of data. And therefore, India needs to bring in data analytics. India needs to bring in artificial intelligence and actually do a lot of deep dive into this data so as to ensure that we cut away with all this, the challenges which I faced when I was a young officer of dealing with physical banks, dealing with physical managers. All this will die out. Banks who do not get into artificial intelligence, banks who do not do data analytics will die out. There will be no physical banks. There will be no physical bank manager. All this will be digital. And therefore, only banks which will survive will be those which are digital. And it's very important to understand this, that the speed at which India is moving, no country has moved so rapidly. And the speed at which government is moving, nowhere in the world has the government moved at the speed for innovation, for data analytics, for artificial intelligence. And nowhere in the world is there such a big gap between the government and the private sector. And it's important that the private sector keeps pace with the government in the movement forward in terms of technology and artificial intelligence. And I'm saying this because I'm speaking before the biggest management body, that there is a big gap between the government's perspective in terms of taking India forward in using innovation and driving change, and between the private sector. And it's important that the government is 10x ahead of the private sector in innovation. And it's very important. And it's very important. And it's very important that Mr. Pai and Mr. Mehta drives private sector to keep pace with government in innovation. Because the size and scale of what the government is doing is enormous. And it's very important that we push for this change. Having said this, I also find a great innovative spirit amongst our young people. There's a different energy, vibrancy, and dynamism when I deal with young people. We in government are also doing a great innovation, doing a unique innovation. And that is the innovation of providing of restructuring our education system. For years, we've copied the Anglo-Saxon system of studying and passing classes and moving from one class to another. But we've launched this Atal Innovation Mission. And in the last 1.5 years, we've supported close to 3,000 schools in India, where from class 6 onwards, we are providing robots, 3D printers, Internet of Things. And in each one of these schools, young students from class 6 onwards are getting used to artificial intelligence, the fourth industrial revolution, and all of them. And many of these schools which we have supported, and we keep having competition amongst these schools. We keep having competition amongst IITs, public schools, and amongst government schools. And more often than not, Intel, which works with us, IBM, which works with us, in all these competitions, the government school students have been found to be more innovative than students of public schools and of IIT. Because the problems and challenges of water, of waste, of food, of how to provide seed and fertilizer to farmers, all these are challenges which students from government schools face, and they want to find solutions to the problems of India. And therefore, my view is that if India can find solutions to its problems of how to manage waste, how to manage agriculture on a real-time basis on weather and soil conditions, and how do we manage our, a huge amount of challenges that we confront in water management, which will be a very big challenge for the coming years. If India is able to find solutions to these problems, we will not be finding solutions to the 1.3 billion people of India, but we'll be finding solutions for the next 7.5 billion people of the world who will be moving from poverty to middle class in the next decade. The next decade will be a huge market. It will be a massive market, and that market will be of those who will be moving from poverty to middle class. As urbanization happens across Africa, as urbanization happens across Asia, there will be a huge market of 7.5 billion. And that is where our innovation must lead to. We must be able to find solutions, and that's why I'm pleasantly surprised, I'm pleasantly amazed at the energy and vibrancy of young Indians. And I'm amazed that a young girl called Pranshul Bhandari is able to find solutions. She started with Mandarin and Chinese, teaching Indians how to speak Mandarin and Chinese, but then realized that the market is about teaching English. And in 1 year, through her app called Hello English, she taught 9 million Indians how to speak English. 9 million Indians, no school, no college has been able to do it. This is amazing. Or look at Baiju, where Mark Zuckerberg has invested his own money. It's the biggest disruption in terms of technology which is being carried out in the schools and education. And to my mind, what Indian students are doing through various other things, through Guru, through Upgrade, through Extra Marks, is that they will be tracking every single student on a longitudinal, latitudinal basis like we track Uber cars. And therefore, in the years to come, we'll see a huge improvement in learning outcomes simply because we'll track students. Or see the kind of revolution which is being brought out in the area of mobility. We have in Bangalore, Ather Energy, young students from IIT Chennai who started their S340 scooter, started manufacturing it with charging stations, and they will be the next Tesla of the scooter world. Young boys at the age of 24, 23, 24. Or look at what young people are doing, J-Star, AgroStar, all these are doing in the world of agriculture. Or weather company, they are providing seed fertilizer to farmers on a real-time basis. So what we are seeing is a huge amount of innovation, massive innovation taking place at the grassroots level, and we need to spread this. We need to spread this from Mr. Pai's city of Bangalore it's spread from Bangalore to Hyderabad now. We need to take it to Pune. We need to take it all over India into our Tier 2, Tier 3 cities so that they become the innovation belts of India. But we are also seeing a lot of innovation from many, because India has combined innovation, innovativeness, and skill to do great innovation. Many of the top innovations for the world have happened in India. Today we have close to 1,100 multinational companies in India who are doing their research and development here. Their R&D hub is based here. So if you look at GE's ECG machine, low-cost machine, which they used to manufacture for $35,000 in USA, they started manufacturing in India for $3,000, the same machine for $3,000. It enabled them to do ECG for $1 as compared to $35 in the USA. So what India has demonstrated, or look at John Decree's 60 HP tractor, innovated in India, sold across the world. Or look at Honeywell's turbocharger, all innovated here in India and being sold across the world. So a lot of innovation. I was very pleasantly surprised when I went to the Shell factory in Shell R&D center in Bangalore last fortnight. They've innovated this conversion of waste into petrol and diesel in India, which will enable them to get petrol and diesel at a much, much lower cost through waste in India. And they say only Indian waste is suitable for conversion into petrol and diesel. So this is all multinationals' innovation only on Indian waste. And therefore, India is the hard belt of innovation. What innovation can happen in India, nowhere else can this happen. And therefore, my view is that across the board, whether it's government, whether it's young people of India, whether it's multinational corporations, all of them are innovating. And India is a great innovative nation. We've been able to combine a great innovative spirit with our genius of skills, of technology together to produce goods at prices which are unheard of in the global markets. And therefore, we'll penetrate global markets. But we need to spread this, much like our Atal Innovation Missions, where we are supporting incubations. We are supporting incubation centers at a very young age. We are supporting tinkering labs from class 6 onwards. We have supported 20 incubation centers, but we'll be supporting 500 incubation centers to push the limits of incubation. And therefore, my view is, ladies and gentlemen, we need to start young at a very young age to change the minds of people, that we have to find solutions to our problems. And if we find solutions, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I request President Aima to kindly present a memento to the Honorable Chief Guest.
Just imagine if all of you have the same passion, the same energy, the same drive, and the same ability to talk to people, how India will be. That's the challenge.
I request President Aima, Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, to kindly present a memento. We're thankful to Mr. Amitabh Kant, CEO, Niti Aayog, for having joined us here. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we bid farewell to Mr. Amitabh Kant, CEO, Niti Aayog, as he had to leave. May I now invite Ms. Rekha Sethi, Director General, All India Management Association, to kindly give her remarks.
Very difficult act to follow. Absolutely the wrong time for me to speak. But what to do? Part of the job. Sanjeev, ladies and gentlemen, we come close to an amazing 2 days. I have been involved with more than 10 conventions so far, and I think this one was really outstanding. And thank you all for still being here with us, and thank you all for joining us. I'm going to let Sanjeev do a sum up of the convention, but for me, there were 3 key points which emerged. One, leadership has become even more critical for success in today's business environment. Every country and every company is facing multifaceted disruption, and it is very challenging to adjust to an unpredictable change. Protectionism is disturbing global supply chains and markets, while new technologies are altering the ways of production and consumption. However, good leadership is possible. With good leadership, it is possible to turn disruption to one's advantage. And I think that's what Amitabh very, very passionately demonstrated right now. Two, India could gain from the disruption of the existing supply chains by becoming a more credible alternative. India can use disruptive technologies to become more competitive and boost its economic growth in the process. The key is to educate the people in data and automation skills and foster a culture of enterprise and innovation. Third takeaway for me, the government's role will be critical in driving a technology-led growth. And it's really been brought home to us very strongly by Amitabh. In fact, he's challenged the private sector to do better in innovation. It needs to promote tech entrepreneurship through preferential policies and fiscal incentives, and also open doors of the world for India's innovators. Large-scale investment in new ventures will boost GDP growth by creating new wealth and more jobs. We also learned in the last 2 days that compassion, trust, and peace are critical for economic progress and prosperity. Accommodation of differences is essential for enterprise and cooperation. Sanjeev, it's been wonderful working with you on the NMC. Thank you so much for agreeing to chair the convention, and I'd like to thank you formally with a warm round of applause for all the support you have given us. It's also the end of the tenure of the present president, and I was hoping he was going to be here while I said my thank yous to him. But in the interest of time, in absentia, and I'm sure Kusum will pass on my thanks to him, I want to thank Mohan, who has worked tirelessly to raise awareness about disruption and promote the cause of Indian economy during his tenure here. This NMC really is a reflection of his vision. We have worked steadily on the theme of disruption, thanks to Mohan's leadership and thanks to his enormous energy and enormous passion. After the Diamond Jubilee year, here he is. Mohan, I want to say a big thank you to you, which I had just told Kusum to pass on to you. Disruption is really your theme for the year and your vision, and we have all rallied around you and worked towards it. After the Diamond Jubilee year, I thought that IMA would have a bit of a slack time. We will not have to work as hard as we did last year, but Mohan allowed us no slack. He was saying that 250 events were done in Sunil Munjal's tenure, but let me tell you, more were done in yours. So, but thank you very much. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your encouragement. And thank you for always being there for us when we needed you. I would also like to take this opportunity to say thank you not just to Mohan, but to the family Pi, as we call them, Kusum, Pranav, Nisha, and Siddharth. They have been part of IMA and they have worked with us throughout the year. And it's been an absolute pleasure and delight working with all of you. And I hope, Mohan, you and the family Pi continues to be involved with IMA. But thank you so much for all your efforts during the year. With these words, a big thank you once again to Mohan. And now over to Sanjeev.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I know we are moving towards the last part of the program. Since last evening, there would have been at least a dozen people who have come and told me that this has been, in many years, perhaps one of the best IMA conventions. So I think full credit to Rekha and the team. I think, Rekha, you should take a bow. What a wonderful job you have done. Absolutely sterling. Talking about IMA and its leadership, the real crux is having a right leader at the right time. And I think there couldn't have been a better person leading IMA than Mohan at this stage in the country's history and IMA's history. Last day and a half have been fabulous. We started with Mr. Sinha opening up our minds, talking about farm to frontier. You know, it is, in many ways, there will be many people in the audience who may not agree with the speakers, but that's absolutely fine. Because what we need is the diversity of counsel. And we need as a society to have a very open mind. But where Mr. Sinha has come and where Mohan came in later in the afternoon, they have talked about the world of possibility in India. And it's so critical for us to start envisioning the future. We can't be living in an age where we would still be growing at mediocre levels and we not be able to lift the millions of our countrymen from the trap that they have fallen into. I believe firmly that without technology, I don't think we would have even been dreaming about 10 trillion as we have started doing today. Many years back, we talked about the world becoming flat. We were then talking about the world becoming flat. Today, we have started seeing the world becoming flat. We have Mr. Kant, in his inimitable style, talked about series of innovations and throwing the gauntlet at the private sector. He's not wrong. When you look at the GST implementation, when the government said, we are going to introduce GST from 1st July, it was the private sector who balked at it. They said, we need more time. So he's not very off the mark when he says that the government has been innovating at a speed much faster than the private sector. But I think what the private sector has, which the government will never have, is the kind of passion and the kind of execution skills that we have in private sector, and that can make a tremendous difference. Yeah. I don't like the word leapfrog. A frog leaps only a couple of meters. And that's the reason I always talk about pole vaulting. I think India as a country has an opportunity to pole vault. We saw that yesterday in many ways. Today morning, it was so fascinating to see a group of youth talk about their dream, talk about the passion, and how they could influence the new India. The onus is on us, from the corporate sector, from the business fraternity, from the management schools, people who practice management, to start believing in this dream and start living this dream. India can become the thought leader of the world in this space. And we don't need any hang-ups of the past, any hang-ups of the colonial era to hold us back. We've got the platform, yeah, and yesterday Mr. Sinha very ably articulated the power of platforms. And he was talking about the public platforms. Or the other word which we often use is the ecosystems. We have to create the ecosystem. We have to keep a cynicism by the side. And we have to, ladies and gentlemen, harness the opportunity that is staring at us. If India doesn't do it, the world is not going to wait for us. There are many other countries who will tap into this opportunity, but we should not let it go by. If you look at Chinese, they have a wonderful word for crisis. And when they break up crisis, it is broken up into two words: a challenge and an opportunity. So for us, there are challenges. Of course there will be challenges. Massive amount of reskilling, creating livelihood opportunities for millions of people, youth who come into the workforce. But today we are at a cusp where it is no longer tryst with political destiny, it is tryst with economical and social destiny. And the world awaits us, a dawn awaits us, and very importantly, the future beckons us. It's been a pleasure interacting with you for the last day and a half. Have a wonderful lunch. Rekha, I believe lunch is there? Oh, there is some award ceremony before that. And God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time now to recognize the efforts of our local management associations towards creating institutional excellence. IMA has 65 affiliated local management associations spread across the country. These LMAs are the frontline soldiers of the national management movement and are contributing immensely in their areas towards enhancing the competence of professional management. It has been IMA's endeavor to encourage healthy competition between the LMAs to further promote quality and excellence. The Best LMA Award was introduced in 88-89 by IMA to recognize the contribution of LMAs to the ideals of IMA and their support to IMA during the year in the relevant category. The award jury this year was chaired by Mr. D. Shivakumar, past President IMA, and Group Executive President, Corporate Strategy and Business Development, Aditya Birla Management Corporation Private Limited. The other members of the jury included Mr. Sanjeev Bigchandani, founder and vice chairman, Naukri.com, Mr. P. Balaji, Chief Regulatory and Corporate Affairs Officer, Vodafone Idea Limited, Mr. P. Dwarkanath, Chairman, GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare Limited, Mr. Krishan Kalra, past President IMA, Dr. Udesh Kohli, past President IMA and Chairman, Construction Industry Arbitration Council, Mr. Richard Recchi, Board Member, KPMG in Dubai, Dr. A.K. Chawla, Consultant, Tata Consultancy Services Limited, Professor J.K. Mitra, former Head and Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi, Mr. Inder Deep Singh, President and Managing Director, Continental Devices India Private Limited. Deloitte was the knowledge partner and evaluated all the applications. Thank you, Deloitte, for doing some excellent work. This year, 31 LMAs participated in the award process. And, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. The award this year for Most Improved LMA goes to Navsari Management Association. I'll request the dignitaries on the dais to please join us center stage. I'll request the esteemed past presidents of IMA to please join us on stage, as we have now on stage the team which is led by Mr. Jignesh Desai, President, and Mr. Prashant Parekh, Secretary, Mr. Hardik Nayak, immediate past president, Mr. Lalit Pandya, Vice President. They have come and they have joined us on stage to receive the award. Once again, I request the esteemed past presidents of IMA to please join us on stage for the award presentation. Heartiest congratulations, Team Navsari. In category 4, we have 2 awards, runner-up and winner. The runner-up in the category 4 for the year 2017-18 is the Calicut Management Association. I invite on stage Mr. K.A. Ajayan, President, and Captain K.K. Haridas, Secretary of the Association, and Mr. Anil Balan, who's the Vice President of the Association, to come forward and receive the award. There they are, ladies and gentlemen, runner-up in the category 4 for the year 2017-18 Calicut Management Association. We now move on to the winner for the year 2017-18 in category 4. Put your hands together for Chandigarh Management Association. May I invite the team from Chandigarh Management Association represented by Mr. Lalit Bajaj, President, Mr. Deepak Kumar Dhingra, Immediate Past President, Mr. Hitesh Gulati, Secretary, and Professor JPS Nindra, Vice President. They have all joined us on stage to receive the award. Congratulations to Chandigarh Management Association. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner for the year 2017-2018 in category 3, Baroda Management Association. May I invite Mr. Rajiv Thakkar, President, and Mr. Gaurish Vaishnav, Immediate Past President of Baroda Management Association, to come forward and receive the award. Heartiest congratulations to Baroda Management Association. And ladies and gentlemen, the winner for the year 2017-18 in category 2 is the Lucknow Management Association. May I invite on stage Mr. Arun Kumar Mathur, Senior Vice President, and Mr. Anant Johri, Executive Director of Lucknow Management Association, and Mr. Dheeraj Malhotra, and Mr. Praveen Kumar Dwivedi to please join us on stage to receive the award. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Lucknow Management Association winners in category 2. And ladies and gentlemen, this year, the category 2 has been won by the Lucknow Management Association. The team members are still with us on the stage. Put your hands together amidst your applause for Ahmedabad Management Association, by doing some excellent work, has won the Best LMA Award in Category 1 for the year 2017-18. I invite on stage Mr. Rajiv Mehta, President, and Mr. Rajiv Vastupal, Past President, IMA and Ahmedabad Management Association, to come forward and receive the award. Congratulations to Ahmedabad Management Association. Ladies and gentlemen, the Madras Management Association has been consistently winning the award for Best Management Association Category 1 for the last 3 years. We are pleased to give the National Excellence Award to Madras Management Association this year for consistent excellence. Joining us now on stage, Mr. L. Ramkumar, President, and Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, Executive Director, Madras Management Association, on stage to receive the award. And with that, we have come to the end of the LMA award ceremony. I once again thank the dignitaries on stage for doing us the honors of presenting these awards. And may I now invite Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, President IMA, to give the concluding remarks.
Sanjeev, Convention Chairman, Rekha, ladies and gentlemen, 1.5 days of exhilarating discussions, intellectual stimulation is now coming to an end. It's been a very fascinating 1.5 days. When we picked the theme, we wanted to have a large idea which is going to transform the world. And that's why we chose our theme address for the year, Leadership in the Age of Disruption, to be the top theme. Then we want to focus on our country. It's the only country we have. We're all born here. We have to live here. And we have to make the future. Nobody is going to make the future. We have to do it. So we said, let's have a large vision of India, so we can all join together. The vision should be so large, it fills you with energy, with passion. You get up in the morning, and till the evening, you're making it happen, and it fills your mind. But it should be realistic, so year by year, you see progress. So we said, 2030 is far enough, but near enough that all of us are going to see it happen. And 10 trillion is a feasible number. And yesterday, despite some skeptics who are economists, they agreed there's 80% probability. If the 80% probability after 12 years, for the next 5 years, it has to be 100%. Because after that, it comes down. Maybe the 12th year, it comes to 50%, right? If the average is 80%, we didn't deserve the skepticism that happened. But nevertheless, I think we changed the mind. So we had this big theme. We started off with having the awards given to the Indian MNC of the Year with Bharat Forge. We had the Business Leader of the Year given later. And then we had Mr. Suresh Prabhu talk to us. He's, of course, busy. And Jayant Sinha told me that, the poor man gives 5 such video messages per day. But he gave a very relevant message to us. And Jayant blew our minds away. A government minister. Our image of government minister is very different, but he's a McKinsey consultant, highly educated, a techie, a fund manager. He's very different. And he spoke to us about farm to frontier and put the idea that India must pole vault, I'm going to use that word, Sanjeev, pole vault into the future and go high up. And this is how it's going to happen, because we can't go to the traditional route in the age of disruption, in the age of automation. It's a very fascinating, mind-opening address that we had. And then, of course, we live in a society. We don't live in a business. We live with real people. People have emotions. And we are a society based on compassion. That's our civilization ethos. So we had Guruji Sri Sri Ravi Shankar come and talk to us about remaking the world order at a time of conflict, at a time of violence, with compassion, trust, and peace. And he said, we must transform ourselves to make it happen. The world cannot transform till we transform. And he told us to transform. He said the root cause of any anger and violence is stress. The stress of modern day life, we must handle it. And one technique could be meditation. We meditated for 5-6 minutes. And I think we're all better off. And he spoke about the fact that compassion is existent in every human being. It's not something that imposed. We are naturally born to be compassionate, especially in this country because we are so little. My younger brother traveled from Bangalore to Leh on the motorcycle, and he told me, every time he went to a village and he asked for food, if there are 2 rotis, they gave him both the rotis. They had nothing in the house, but they gave him what they wanted. This is the ordinary person of this country. And I remember when we were children, when some guests came, our mothers woke up and made sure they had the food. Yes, we're losing that humanity now, but nevertheless, we will, I'm sure, retain it. And then we had a panel discussion on a hot topic, the future of retail. Will online retail dominate or will it be offline? 2 great figures, Kishore Biyani, who created modern retail in India. Kishore is a dreamer, an ideator, and he came and told us what he did. And then, of course, we had the great maestro, Sanjeev, our own convention chairman, who came and told us about his ideas. And they all said it's not going to be offline, online, it's going to be online and offline. And it's true, Amazon is set up stores now, Walmart is come from the other side, and we see where the clash of the titans is going to happen, and whether Thor's hammer is going to win or not, and all the nice stuff. So I think fascinating discussion. The fact is, online has become mainstream. Online is not an innovation, everybody is going online, and with Walmart buying it is remarkable. And Sanjeev told us a fascinating story of how Hindustan Unilever, the largest FMCG company, and one of the best of its kind in the world, has led the way in a very Indian way in a short period of time. And he must tell us more of what he did. He's very reticent about talking about himself. But it's a great story. He led from the future. He led from the front. And he must tell us, because we are proud of Sanjeev. We're proud of what he's done. We're proud of what happened in India. And it was a great discussion. Then, of course, we had the fascinating story of India 2030. You know, the idea is to give you data about India. All of us don't know what India is today. Data doesn't lie. These are all verifiable data. You can go and check up yourself. This is a great country. It's achieved so much to the efforts of its people, with a fantastic, cacophonous, dysfunctional democracy which works. We've taken people forward. The largest number of people in poverty have been taken forward by China and India. China has taken 300 million people. India has taken 200 million people. And we're going to transform this country. And you know, there's a report by Brookings which says in another 2 to 3 years, people in poverty will be only 11%. And every year making progress. Every moment we're making progress. And we have a great techie as a prime minister who has a large dream. This is not about politics, but this is about how politicians can change a country. What did the prime minister do? Look at the vision that he has. And I respect the man. I've known the man for a long time. I respect him. I'll stand up for him any point of time, anywhere in the world, and tell what he's doing. For a very important reason, let me say. We all dream of a country where every Indian has the basic necessities of life. What are the basic necessities of life? A roof for your house, water in the tap, sewage connection, toilet in the house, power in the switch, food on the table, education for your children, a road to your house, and enough jobs when they grow up, and social security and medical care. By 2022, every Indian will have a house with the largest low-cost housing program in the world. Every house will have power by March 2019. 70% of people have access to good water, and now we're going to have more of that. Toilets, 36% of Indians had toilets 4 years ago. Now 92%. Yes, out of 92, maybe 20% will not go because they want the hawa on their backs every single day. It doesn't matter, but they will change. Why? The woman will change. It's the woman in the family who brings about change. And we have empowered the woman, like Minister M.J. Akbar said, by many of these things. And they will bring about change, and they're changing. 92% toilets. And then the roads. Every village of more than 500 kilometers has road. Every village of 250 kilometers will have roads. Every basti will have roads. And there'll be roads where roads were never built before. Are there no roads, there'll be a digital road. Everybody has got a phone connection. 900 million phone connections out of 1.3 billion people. If the babies who don't have it. 1.2 billion Aadhaar connections. 1.1 billion banking accounts. Everybody has got it. And it's very cheap because Jio has given us unlimited data for 100 rupees. And very soon they'll give it away free also, because the data they get is valuable. So they're getting toilets. They got a road. Medical care with Ayushman Bharat is going to solve a big problem. Many of you don't understand how things make what happened. When my father was in hospital, my mother sold all her jewels to pay for my father. She didn't tell me. But it's not that we didn't have money. But she did it. That's what happens in a house. When somebody is ill, you sell everything. Your house, everything. You want to save them. That's the compassion people have. And they fall into poverty. We didn't fall into poverty. But they fall into poverty. Like they say, 66 lakh people every year. So we must give them the medical care. And it's not difficult. It may cost 50,000 crores a year. The union government and state government spend 45 lakh crores a year. The money is available. And we can do it. Yes, execution takes time. There's going to be failure, but there's happening. And jobs. This country creates 75 lakh jobs a year. That data is there. The Ghosh and Ghosh report has given the job, given the data. If somebody says jobs are not being created, tell them see the report. And every month the jobs report is coming. Last month, 9.5 lakh people entered the formal job market through the EPFO. The data is there. Of course, many people disbelieve it because they disbelieve this country can't go in future because they're all in some campuses in Delhi getting paid by taxpayers. and we are not asking them what they do. But this is all reality, is all data that's happening, and jobs to be created. And we got 20 lakh people who get jobs in the auto industry. We sell 3.8 million cars. They require 500,000 drivers. We sell 700,000 HCVs, MCVs, 1.4 million, 14 lakh drivers are required. We sell 3,50,000 autos, one auto driver. In auto creates 20 lakh jobs. If you add up all that, professionals create 1 lakh jobs. There are 1 crore jobs being created. We need 1.3, 1.4. Yes, we have a problem. That is going to be a problem. There is no solution. Nobody has solved it. We can't solve it. But we'll live with it. India will continue the way it will go. The sun is going to rise in the morning, and the sun is going to set in the morning. Don't worry about that. India will continue. So this idea is important. So it will energize you. Now we can pick holes in everything. It's okay. The future is what you want to make out of it. All of you. Why? Because you are the All India Man Association. You are professional managers. You are the catalysts of growth. You are the catalysts of change. You are the catalysts of innovation. And you are the people who have to make it happen. You can't look back and say, they're going to make it happen, but you're going to make it happen. Because you are the managers. And you must do it. Why should you do it? Because you have to do it. There are no two things. There is no debate. There are no negotiations. You have to do it. And I'm asked to lead the way. And then, of course, we had the panel discussion, fascinating by industry leaders. Sunil Kant Munjal, Sanjeev, Ajay Piramal, Baba Kalyani, all stars. And they all were positive. Despite all them, if you open the newspapers in India, you pull your hair out, ye kya ho raha hai? But they were all positive. Yes, we all crib. Indians crib a lot. You know, it's the nature of the beast. We crib a lot. But they're all positive. End of it, even the person who was handling it, you know, my friend Omkar, old friend, we are on the board of Infosys, said 80% probability. In the beginning, he said, ye kya kar raha hai? You know, I'll tell you a story, Sanjeev. In 1998, I was much younger, much more angry. So I was in IT. I went to a seminar in ISC and said, the IT industry will export $50 billion by 2010. Those days, we were exporting $2 billion. So we had a retired secretary on there. He said, ye kya bol raha hai? Dekho, he's talking rubbish. Yes, in democracy, you can talk sense and rubbish. He says, rubbish kar raha hai. And he says, the gems and jewelry industry exporting 7 billion, they're not giving numbers. How can he do it? A typical question. Then I got angry and said, sir, I want to tell you, if India doesn't do it, Indians will do it. It happened. We reached 50 billion. Now it's 126 billion. It happened. In 1997, we wrote the first IT policy in the state of Karnataka. We wrote a policy, gave it to the minister and said, sir, please announce. He said, what is the target? 5,000 crores by 2000. He said, will it happen? How much are we? 1,500 crores. I look fully, sir, you announce. It happened, 5,000 crores. Why? The world is a big place. There's enough business. The power of an idea has come. Like Victor Hugo said, nothing can stop the march of an idea whose time has come. And the time has come for India, and we will do it. So they all said that. It's fascinating, each one of them a star. Then we had diplomacy in the time of disruption. And here was a great liberal who came and gave us this broad idea, broad themes, how disruption is happening, societies are changing, how things are changed. You have to go back in history to find out the extent of change. 200 years ago, China, India were the biggest economies. 100 years ago, we became the poorest economies. Now we are very different. 20 years later, we are going to be among the biggest economies. So you need to have a perspective, a historical perspective, and he spoke about us. And to me, he answered the question which you see in the media every single day. We are called communal, we call this and that. But he said, every day in every city, village and town of India, the azan is sung in the morning. The temple bells ring. The Guru Granth Sahib is sung. The church bells ring. Tell me one country where it happens. One gentleman asked the question, oh, people are getting lynched and all that. They're all crimes. They're crimes. They're crime. You must not mistake crimes for programs. Show me one country where we live in harmony. And why do we do that? Because as a civilization, we expect the right of everybody to their own path, and we live with everybody. We don't differentiate. We have challenges, but we don't depend. This is the greatest experiment in social living in the world. We should be proud. We should not pick on isolated incidents and blow it up and abuse this country and abuse everybody and give them names. The Indian is a compassionate person who lives with everybody, who shares, who lives, who helps. There's no other society like this, and we must honor the society. We must respect society. So hats off to MJ Akbar. Then, of course, there was this great Nitin Gadkari. He was put under inquisition by the wonderful champion of the inquisition, Raja Sharma, who has destroyed many, many reputations. And Nitin came forward for the inquisition and came out successful. A strong man, a performer, who told us the Ganga will be clean. This is wonderful news in 1 year. So you can all go bathe in the Ganga. I should have a national convention bathing in the Ganga. And the Ganga should be clean, because for us the Ganga is important. Very important. We pray to the Ganga every day. All of us want to drink the Ganga water, at least one time in your life. The Ganga Jal is important. He spoke to us, and he's building these roads. The largest road building exercise in India is happening. 26 kilometers a day. A lot of work is happening. He's built up giant companies. And he's a positive man. Look at the energy of the man. It's not easy to be a politician. Easy to sit here and criticize them. You be a politician from 4:30 in the morning, people at home asking for a job, asking for everything. And you have to go beg before people for votes, whatever you do. It's not easy. It's a tough job. Yet we abuse them. But he is positive. He said, look, I belong to a social organization. This is my belief. I'll stand up for my belief. You stand for your belief. It's okay. Each one can believe what we want. Why? There doesn't have to be conflict. What you believe is mine. What you believe is yours. We don't have to say, abuse each other, do something. He said, I stand for it. And he showed us what true execution is, what public service is, how good politicians have transformed this country. I have great respect for Yuvan Lalu Prasad Yadav. Because please remember how he came into politics, what he did. Yes, there are many things you can accuse him of doing wrong. He's undergoing a trial and all that. But nevertheless, he gave power and voice to the marginalized of Bihar. Yes, we can differ, but politicians are very extraordinary people. And he showed us. And I think it was a very fascinating end of a day. At the end of the day, we are mentally exhausted. We got so much bang, 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 every single minute, ideas flowing. In the morning, we heard about India's future. Young India coming and telling us. And they told us, you're not relevant. Your legacy. Just behave yourself. Don't come in our way. I think it's a fascinating message which to be told to us. And today we see a change because of technology, that the gap between the generations is becoming smaller. And we don't know how to talk to them. They're all born to a cell phone. They're born to everything. The way of interacting with the world is through the mobile. And we still want to call people. We want to do something. They got information at the fingertips. They can decide at the fingertips. They know where to go. They're very sure what to do. And they're masters of the future. Energetic. Are all young Indians like that? No. There are 4 layers of India. The urban India, big cities India, the small town India, the village India, the tribal India. The bottom is still what it was. But we have an example of what young people can become. There's no reason why a person in Kalahandi or a poor district cannot be what the people on the stage were. But we have to, as a society, give them the means. We have to give them education. Now with the internet, the world opens before them. Give them a mobile. They will discover all the knowledge. They will learn. They'll go to Coursera. They'll go to EdNext, and they will learn. They'll get all those courses, see all the lectures, see Sanjeev talking. Sanjeev's video will be there on YouTube. So everybody will see Sanjeev and listen to his ideas. And look at that. Let's empower them. I think this is a fascinating story. Our future is safe. I would urge all of you not to worry about it. Let it happen by itself, because they will take care. Right? We should enjoy what we are doing today, not worry about the future. And not tell him, ask question, ye kya hoga, wo kya hoga, jo hoga, hoga. And then, the 4th Industrial Revolution. Again, a good panel where we spoke about what is going to change. And the fact is, it's happening in India. It's happening all over. We need case studies. We need to show people. And I think they spoke about the changes, how it's going to impact, blah, blah, blah. And they said, we're going to create more jobs in new technologies. But the key is, how do you create jobs for everybody? The skill problem should not overtake us. People are skilling people. All the big companies are skilling. In Infosys, in 5 years, we hired 200,000 people, trained 250,000 people. Every year, 35,000 software engineers are trained in 26 weeks at our cost, costing us 5 lakhs per head. And we had the 3rd largest global training center for software engineers in the world, after United States, China, then Mysore. We did it. Everybody is doing that. In 1997, when McKinsey wrote the report, they said by 2010, there'll be 500,000 engineers short. I told them, rubbish. In 1910, when we came, there were 500,000 surplus engineers, good engineers. Why? We all worked and we did it. I'm sure all the educations, everybody is going to make it happen. The bright kids will make it happen. Yes, we have problems, but I think it'll happen. Good. And then we had the valedictory session where we had the grand finale. And the big bull came. And the big bull has been an innovator, a dreamer, a creator. He showed us how he brought about change. And he told us, hey guys, and women, and ladies, don't bother. We are bringing about change in the government. Look at what we have done. We've made things easier. We've gone digital. The largest experiments are happening. The largest programs are happening. We're doing all that. You guys are way behind. And Sanjeev and I were sitting down and saying, who is behind? We looked behind. Then he said, you. I said, we? Oh my God. Okay. Now he said, we're going to show you what we're going to do. Right? The only way to meet a challenge is to rise up to the challenge and rising up challenge. But look at what they're doing. Look at the change. Change at the margin is fantastic. Change on the base takes time. We've got a large base. To change 1.3 billion people is going to take time. But change at the margin, every year the change that happens, unbelievable, fascinating, out of your mind. And he blew our mind away. He blew our mind away. In 25, 30 minutes, he gave us a vision of what is happening and how things are going to change. Then, of course, Sanjeev came and spoke to us about all his feelings were and what he has done. And our respect for the man went up. He led us in this conference. And I'm going to lay down office in a couple of hours. I joined IMA 3 years ago. Last year was my presidency, same time I took over. So we sat down with Rekha, worked on a theme. We went to many LMAs. We took delegations to the United States and to China. We went many places. We had many conferences. And the whole idea was to share a large vision and change that was going to happen before everybody. And I think in the course of the year, in the course of the last 3 years, we brought about a change in thinking. We have put new ideas. And IMA is very important for this country. It's 60 years old, 60,000 people, members. And these are all the best managers India has. And all these managers have to change in their own area. And for us, the power of the idea is important. Ideas move civilizations. Ideas create companies. Ideas create countries. And the power of thinking, the power of the intellect. IMA is an intellectually driven organization. It's an idea organization. It's a knowledge organization. And it's an execution of that knowledge organization. And it's fascinating. We have to conceive of an idea. We have to think of a strategy. We have to execute the strategy and make the future happen. And that's the role professional managers have. And IMA has to play the role. IMA has to lead. And IMA has no choice but to lead. And the lead has to be at the edge, at the current state of affairs, as something new. So we all lead. And I think IMA has been leading. IMA is a fantastic secretary led by the redoubtable Rekha Sethi. Rekha is fascinating. Rekha has one thing very clear when I became president. She said, you have to sign when I tell you to sign. You have to stand up when I tell you to stand up. You have to speak when I tell you to speak. And I said, yes, I'm used to it at home. I'll do it here. When I was director HR, the head of HR was a woman. I listened to her. Because women are better. They're more focused, they're better. And what they say they will do, they will do. And they stick to the agenda. I said yes, because if Rekha succeeds, the credit will come to me. Sanjeev knows. The best way to win is to get people brighter than you, better than you, under you, and make them work 24 hours a day and give them a lollipop every day. And they will work, they'll make it happen, and you win. And Sanjeev told us that, didn't he? I have distributed, creating local board, they're all doing. Now I go talk about my digital. He's doing all the fun stuff, all the grunt work, hard work they're doing. And every month end he comes, number dikao, kya kiya, target. What a brilliant man. We got to learn strategy from him. So I want to thank her. I think in the last 1 year, we've gone to many LMAs. LMAs are the strength of IMA. LMAs are the strength. My appeal to all of you, IMA members and LMA members, is in your capital city of every state, we are 29 states, each one bigger than a country anywhere in the world. You are like a country. Treat yourself like a country. Your LMA, come together. Have a national convention like this. Get the ideators, expose the managers, get all the students, and create a vision of where you want your state to be. Where do you want Kerala to be by 2030? Where do you want Karnataka to be? Where do you want Haryana to be? Where do you want West Bengal to be? Where do you want UP to be? You must create the vision, and you must talk to government, and you must create the positive energy, because you're all ideators, you're all role models, you're all the catalysts for growth. So my idea is you must become intellectual organizations within your own area. And then we all join together to celebrate your achievement, your innovation, what we have done in the Grand National Management Convention. That's the way it has to be. We have to be bottom-driven. And that's why we said each member in the EC should visit 5 LMAs. We can't make it mandatory. Most of them are visited. I think you should call the best thought leaders. You must market. Nobody will come to you if you don't market. You must go talk to them, market, and you must get them to come. And we had it in Kerala. Fascinating, fantastic event. We had it in Indore. We had it in Lucknow. We had it in Calcutta. We had it in Guwahati. Now I think Baroda is going to do next week. And Coimbatore is doing it. Madras has done that. We went to Bombay. We did it. Everywhere is happening. Now this must come. In 2 years' time, it must be like in Europe, you have events in countries. And that's the dream you must take up. That's the challenge you must take up. So I want to end by thanking all of you for reposing trust in me, for giving me this great opportunity to spend time amidst you. I spent more than 50 days. It's hard work. And I'm going to lay down office. When I lay down office and go into the sunset, I'll go with a sense of satisfaction, because I believe the presidency is a continuum. It continues. India lives on. People come and go. IMA will live on. Presidents will come and go. Each president adds to the past. And I can tell you with full confidence, I've done my bit to add to what Sunil Munjal and the previous presidents gave us. And I've made sure that I added to your brand equity to what IMA is and everything else. So thank you very much, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pai, for that wonderful address. And now I take the pleasure of inviting on stage Mr. Atmaram Sarogi, past President IMA, to kindly share his thoughts.
I'll just take your 1 minute just to congratulate my current president, Mohandas Pai, who has done a super job. Well, I happen to be the oldest past president of IMA, and I was president about 40 years back. And I could say in the last 60 years, I have seen, not worked with everybody, because I was a very young boy when the first president came in. And I would say that Mohan has done an outstanding job. And the other person I could remember when Mohan was speaking was a colleague from Sanjeev's company called Dr. K.S. Basu. He was the longest serving president in IMA for 4 years. Now we have a term of 1 year for the last about 45 years too. But earlier, the people who built it up, they had longer terms, and Dr. Basu had the longest term for 4 years. And he was a medical doctor, but he did a super job like Dr. B.C. Roy did in West Bengal, who was also a medical doctor. So please give another standing ovation to Mohan for his outstanding job.
Thank you, Mr. Sarogi. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have come to the end of the 45th National Management Convention of IMA. I hope you have all enjoyed the sessions over the last day and a half. We look forward to seeing you all at the next NMC. Have a very nice day. Thank you. Lunch.